It starts with a simple question and ends in objective reality. Through our journey from there to here, we find one another and ourselves. And as the next 24 hours breaks free from our last, we gaze onward in reflection of the day.
Come to your own conclusions. Stay vigilant.
Welcome to the Daily Wrap-Up.
Friday, July 10th, 2026. Thank you for joining me today. I have a lot to talk about today, but we are going to focus on a couple of important things that revolve around privacy, constitutional rights, surveillance, largely. And we're going to talk about the updates around Iran. Again, as I keep mentioning when we talk about this, it's really no different than what you've been hearing from me over, I don't know, the last few months. There's new things happening. This is not the same moment we were talking about a month ago, but you won't be surprised to find out it's the exact same circumstance where Trump just lied yet again about what they said, and we'll go over the same conversation and be objective about it. Because as always today, this could be the time that he's telling the truth. The reality though, is that it's pretty frustrating to see where this has gone and the kind of cycle of dishonesty around the whole conversation and where that leads the American people. We're going to finish with that part of the story because honestly, it's a very serious and honestly one of the largest events happening in the world. It's very newsworthy. But at the moment, it's almost as if it's taken a back seat only because honestly, it's hard to even describe because part of me feels like it's on the precipice that Donald Trump or Israel or even Iran could do something that could shove this into, much more of a serious event. And I guess I should put it this way in particular, this is being reported from an American perspective in regard to American foreign policy and the lives of Americans. But as you know, when we do this show, this is not about one group or the other. We fight for peoples around the world that are being oppressed, that are being misrepresented, people that are being lied about. But to explain, that's why I think I would frame it that way, because let's not forget, there are people in Lebanon who are being killed right as we speak because of what Israel's doing. There are people in Iran that are suffering and dying and even starving because of what the U.S. and Israel have been doing to that country. So it shouldn't be something we diminish. But all that being said, it'll be talked about at the end of the show, the latter part of it, only because it's something we've in depth discussed, and it hasn't really evolved that much from last we talked about it. But we're going to talk about an important kind of evolution around surveillance that is being sort of focused on the flock cameras, which I also think is a very important story. But I too sense a little bit of suspicion, a caution around why that's getting so much attention on platforms that would otherwise, I argue, suppress it, but we shouldn't assume that's always what happens. But let's get into that conversation to start today after a couple opening points that I think it's like a lot of the other things we're discussing. It's very widely discussed, very widely acknowledged. And as far as I can tell from my perspective, pushed back on by almost everybody, regardless of what side you're on. I find that really empowering and impactful, but maybe that's why it's being allowed to be discussed, if you look at it that way, in order to drive us into a controlled version of that conversation. That's kind of how those things go. When these kind of revolutionary moments happen, that's the new form of suppression. But we're also going to talk about some other important parts around all of that. ICE still utilizing the same technology we're going to talk about today that's overlapped with Flock, overlapped with Israeli intelligence and Cellbrite and all the different Clearview AI and all the things we've been discussing. All have the same common threads and the same connections and the same problem. And it's very important to see where this all goes. And we're going to talk about how that relates to the bigger conversation as well as to Iran. But I want to get into that in particular part of this as it pertains to Americans and that growing awareness of what Israeli intelligence has to do with all of this and what Flock is saying about that, where this all kind of goes back to. But a few other things we will get into, I think, are very important, but largely around surveillance. But let's start with a couple of points I wanted you to make sure you didn't miss from our previous conversations, one of which is our last show, the ongoing engineered division of the United States, fake patriots versus fake patriots. Now, why I find this to be so important is it's something that I think everyone is paying attention to. There's nuanced opinions around a lot of it, but at the end of the day, it's fake. And not that everybody this is not actually a real shot, but in the events of people that are marching or protesting or whatever you want to talk about, there's plenty of people involved in these that are real, that believe in what they're doing. And however grotesque you may think the ideology is, in many cases, I agree. But there are people at the tops of these that are clearly historically, and in these cases, proven to be manipulated or controlled, if you will. And so we end up in this weird situation where you've got like these artificial movements that are being framed as what it's the left-right paradigm in an extended version because people aren't falling for it anymore. I'm absolutely convinced about that. And I hope you check out this episode. And of course, I could be wrong. I was even just reading comments about this and somebody saying that, that they don't agree with me on that, but at least that I make sure to say that I believe this. I do. And it's not that I just choose to believe it. I think the evidence backs up my opinion. But at the same time, I do say that because I can't prove that, but I find it confounding or frustrating that people don't see, it's not just some kind of faith-based opinion. I think it's very clear there are markers all across this conversation that at the very least suggest that the vast majority of people are just not buying the general larger kind of agendas. Now, they still may see themselves in the two-party illusion. They may still vote for one or the other. My point is about a larger growing awareness that everybody has their own kind of part of that they're lurching into more than the other or seeing more than everybody else. But we're all evolving is kind of the point. At least that's what I believe. And I think that's based up on the facts. I also had a great conversation with Charlie Robinson. We do our dual bi-monthly show called What the Hell is Happening and discussed a lot of the different points. Steve Poikinen joined us at the end, which you can check out. It was a great conversation. And of course, we also have a show today that we put out, How Trump and Israel Are Crafting a New World Order. Robert's been doing his foreign policy with Robert Inlakesh show for the Last American Vagabond and does a great job breaking down why the Board of Peace is one piece, one part of a larger sort of global change, which is exactly what I'm seeing as well. And it is obvious they're trying to deliberately kind of redesign the global order. And maybe it's even something that they were only a part of or maybe saw else happening. However you want to look at it, it's clear that they've taken advantage of that thing now for their benefit as they're failing in this agenda, as it looks, that appears that way to me. We also talked with Derek Brose on the 9th. David Levitt, I think is what the way we've been announcing it, so it's not confusing, but I forget. It always mixes me up because, Caroline David Levitt's rebranding and how the January 6th pipe bomber suspect got flocked. Now, that is overlapped with the flock technology, but I meant it more to be sort of a kind of pun, like got screwed based on the license plate reader technology. And this is important to see. And this we talked about a lot of stuff in this interview, but of course, Massey was the one calling this out and showing you that we've gone over this, the shoe size difference, the difference in gait, the technology, using their technology, the evidence points to somebody other than the person they currently have, Brian Cole. And of course, Kash Patel and Bongino yelling about how what a success it all is. And I thought on top of that, I found it relevant that the way they got this guy was using cell phone towers and flock cameras, or rather just license plate readers. So you can check out that interview. We also put out a great article on the 9th from Jason Bassler, his first for TLAV. 8 ways to take down flock without a sawzall. Now, this is an important article because, and I talked about this with Derek too. And I hope this needs to be clear to people because we got to stand on these lines. Whether or not you agree with what people are doing in regard to the actual sawing of these things down, it is not, regardless of what the government tries to do, a crime. It's constitutionally protected for you to say anything, by the way. And again, national security, all these different caveats. You can argue that's the case and should be, but the reality is, it's obvious these things are unalienable, not something that can be altered based on X, Y, and Z, fill in the blank. So the point would be, hypothetically speaking, if I'm saying, I think people should cut those down, in a hypothetical conversation, as if I would say that, kind of joking. The point is, that's not a crime to say that I think somebody should do that. I think somebody should go out and run for office. I think somebody should go out and, do anything. The point is, it's not a crime to express a sentiment, even if you find the action to be distasteful or illegal. The crime is when, shocking, you actually commit the act. So what I want people to think about in this is you don't have to support the actual vandalism of this, and that is the category it would fall under, but we're talking about things that are inherently, undeniably unconstitutional. And we're going to talk about that today. And it's so too are all the rest of the cameras, by the way. They're all surveilling you. This is not some new evolution, or the technology is. But these things are unconstitutional. There's tons of that. And so to say, oh, well, it's everywhere, well, then you can give up if you'd like. I don't want to. Let's start taking the ones in front of us we can deal and acknowledge and start doing something about it. But my point would be that there are people that argue that going out of their, it's an unjust system with unjust laws. And so why would we follow unjust laws? This is your own decision to make out there, because realize if you go out there and do something like that, they'll probably come to your door with a gun. As the government, because that's what they do. The point, though, is that this is something that is within each person's decision-making process to think if they decide something like this needs to be stopped. Now, I I support people that are out there taking action they think is against an unjust system and taking down flock cameras that they believe are in fact violating their rights. But to go out and do it is a different story. If I do that, that'd be my decision. And likely wouldn't even be something I'd promote, only because it would be something that they could come and arrest you for. All that being said, discussing this is not a crime, and acknowledging that you agree or support somebody doing something like that's also not a crime. So make sure you understand that. But what's important is that there are 8 ways and plenty more to do something about this that's not kinetic action or violence or vandalism or whatever you would call it. And I think it's an important article. And the reason I said all of that is because Jason, as you can look online, clearly supports the actions against unconstitutional surveillance. But he also wants you to know that there's plenty of other ways that you can engage with this if you decide. And just to quickly break it down, ask your city to provide flock to prove that it works. Now, this is already coming out, that you actually engage with them and their own data ultimately shows that they're not getting the results that were promised. They point to flock data about other circumstances that make that allegation, but it seems it's not even doing what they claim it does. But at the very least, hold them accountable for that. If you're paying for it, then you damn well better be proving to us regularly that it's doing what you think it should. Find the contract before renewal. This kind of is a larger point for a lot of things. Don't wait for the contract to be in front of you. Don't wait for the event to be happening. Don't wait for the cameras to be installed around you. Let's stand up before we get there, right? So again, plenty of points I could make today. Had we done something when we were screaming about this years ago, we might not even be in this position. But here we are. So let's take that mindset and do something now so we don't wake up in the middle of this problem tomorrow when the new media is yelling about the breaking story when it's too late to do anything about it. So find the contract before the renewal and get planning. Get people around you. Get the local community. Get the local government if they support you. Ask for the privacy review. Getting into the details of the privacy, because trust me, guys, they don't care about your privacy. As one local group from the government already revealed, they just removed the line from the contract that said they wouldn't sell it after people signed the contract. That's just criminal. Show up before the decision is made. Be engaged with this process, right? Most surveillance systems don't appear overnight, as he writes. They usually go through committee meetings and budget discussions. Get involved. If you feel this will make a difference, I do, at least in regard to things like this, get involved. Follow the money. Surveillance often expands because someone else offers to pay for it, as the Department of Justice, for example, because it's not like they have some larger nefarious agenda to install this all across the country. The point is they'll pay for it. Local communities or local governments will decide they think it's free, but it ultimately is still coming out of your pocket. Ask who can search the database. And you'll quickly find out, if they're honest, it's far more than you realize. And we'll get into that today, including with ICE and government contracts and government entities where they claim they can't look at the database, except when you just barely look. It turns out they totally can, because they just go, we don't allow that, but we allow groups to do that they then allow ICE to look through. So it was a total plan, guys, and we'll get into that, like usual, by the way. So in case that was unclear, we will go through it again. They have databases that they claim ICE and other enforcement aren't allowed to just peruse, except the problem is that they do have groups that are allowed to look at it. And those groups work with ICE and work with the police departments, or let's just make it clear, work with the U.S. government. So the U.S. government has access to all of that. And this is not even hard to find. Request the audit logs. Compare crime before and after. And it includes a bunch of other links that you can look to find out where the cameras are, how to stop them, how to, any number of great database, great websites full of information, and some different things you can post. He'll hopefully write some more. I think this is a good topic that shouldn't be ignored. Now, we will get to the point about, the interesting concern about this topic in general right now, not about the surveillance, but why it's being allowed to be discussed and why it's seemingly being in some ways promoted, if you want to call it that. Hopefully I remember, I'll get into that, by people that are clearly not really on the side of the agenda. The usual suspects out there spinning their wheels about whatever the establishment screams about, and that's Trump's administration right now, and are now certainly going flock cameras and quoting what the news said and not really saying good or bad. It's weird. And I'll get into that in a second. Now, before we get into the deep part of the conversation, I wanted to highlight this. Jason was talking with me about this. I had this tweet that I saved, one, because I just wanted the mask, or I wanted to look into the different things you can use to block AI cameras and so on. He posted this on Twitter. They deleted the post. Now, for the podcast, here's what it says. Now, I get the sense it's because of deflock hunters. But again, how in the world do you even know what that means? What if it's people that are simply looking for flock cameras to protest? You see my point? To assume you know what that means is what this, it's subjective censorship because Twitter has an agenda, just like it always has. Jack, Elon, same deal. Pro tip number 1, Jason writes, always leave your phone at home. Number 2, never film yourself. And it goes, also, just wanted to point out that this mask is only $4.97 on Temu. Happy hunting. They deleted that post. They said that it violated the Twitter rules. I mean, guys, just take a second and think about that. What in this is promoting? Violence? I mean, but what they want to say is that this means, wink, wink, that he's promoting the idea of going out and vandalizing these things. Okay. First of all, that's a very minor thing in the context of people out there screaming about pro-genocide tactics and literally going, kill the children in Gaza. They're terrorists. They're just insane all over the world, all over this platform, by the way. Muslims shouldn't be in any position anywhere. Laura will scream every day. The point is, they have a right to say those things, and I have a right to call them disgusting. For them to tell you that this is supposed to be not there because it's promoting anything, violence, it's such a hypocritical move. So you can decide what you think it's about, no matter what way you want to spin this. I mean, you know, again, back to the point. Let's say he is going, go cut those things down. How is that a crime? Is he cutting them down? Is it a crime for you to yell into the wind, go do something that might be? I mean, guys, we need to realize what a dangerous slope this is. People like Elon and the rest are absolutely playing their part. So, by the way, here, if you would like to buy that mask, it's right here. Please go and buy it, and please post it all over Twitter. And please make sure you share that screenshot, which I'll have included, of Jason posting that. And call out Twitter for censoring completely constitutional speech all over this platform. Now, before we get into the flock part more particular, and more specifically, again, the technocracy growing in this government can't be denied. I'll include the Detachment 201 point, which you've probably seen, which is simply Palantir, Meta, and OpenAI being given positions of a level of a colonel in the military. Not some white lab coat, but an actual military colonel, which can then direct anybody under them anywhere in the military. Look it up for yourself. It's insane. It's technocracy in uniform, as I called it. Well, we also recently highlighted that Mark Andreessen, Horowitz, one of the lead technocratic drivers of the current conversation, and I don't mean that's facetiously. These people are advocating publicly for what we're all fighting. June 29th, 2026, Department of War establishes a defense policy board, which includes Mark Andreessen. Great. It's totally not some obvious technocratic transition, which simply means the technocrats, the technical leaders in AI and technology, are the ones that are going to ultimately have leading positions. This is what we're watching this transition happen. Of course, the new point is, of course, we barely even got into Kevin Warsh, by the way, which is an obvious, an alarming pointee by Trump that got very little attention. It's one after another of exactly what he told you he would not support. And he's lying to you. Surprise, surprise. But as Catherine Austin Fitz writes, oh, and by the way, guys, don't forget, there's an account going around that's got way too many followers that's not Catherine Austin Fitz. It's lying, and it's just manipulating, and people see. I see people share it all the time who should know better. It's not Catherine. This is her only account. Now, looks like Warsh is going full-on digital control grid, she writes. Kevin Warsh picks, can you guess? Well, first of all, ex-Bank of BOE chief Marvin King, and of course, technocracy boss Mark Andreessen. A totally different post, guys. So in a process of a week and a half, he gets 2 major government positions. Now, look, the Federal Reserve is technically not the government, but understanding what it actually leads to, it is part of this control structure. And this is July 9th, Federal Reserve announces the leadership and objectives of the task force to advance the conduct of monetary policy. The 5 task forces will examine areas central to the board conduct of monetary policy, access the economic impact of new general purpose technologies, including AI, and to inform the Federal Reserve's policy judgment. Mark Andreessen of Andreessen Horowitz. It's far too much, guys, for this not to be acknowledged for what it is. Now I'm going to play a clip really quickly. I'll be right back.
Nobody will be safe if not everybody is vaccinated.
Are you vaccinated, if I
Yes.
may ask?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very pro-vaccination.
Yeah.
I believe the science is unequivocal.
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants. Just think of sensors planted into our brains.
Basically implanted in your skull. So, but it would be flush with your skull. So you basically take out a chunk of skull, put the Neuralink device in there. You put the electrode, you'd insert the electrode threads very carefully into the brain.
It doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take a genetic editing,
It's a fusion of the physical, the digital, and the biological world. That's really the essence of the fourth industrial revolution.
A merger with biological intelligence and machine intelligence.
An effort for man to merge with machine in a
Yes.
healthy way.
Yes.
To beat machines, you basically have to merge with machines.
Most likely, yes.
As work is changing, is a universal basic income really a solution to this problem?
I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. And I think some kind of a universal basic income is going to be necessary.
decarbonization of the economy.
Where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So, individual carbon footprint tracker. Stay tuned. We don't have it operational yet, but this is something that we're working on.
I mean, my top recommendation, honestly, would be just to have a carbon tax.
This global reset is necessary.
So let's talk about flock cameras that are going to play a major role in building this control grid that are clearly building around us as we speak. So what's important to understand here, guys, is, and we will come back to the idea of the flock cameras in general. The point, though, is that this is something like in the suspicion kind of concern for it. But what's important, because there's far more than just flock cameras. Like, I think that's really important to understand. Like, this is one part of a much larger thing. So one of the concerns is ultimately that maybe this is being focused on as sort of a bait and switch, if you will, which just happened many times before, right? That ultimately we're talking about a problem, which it may even very well be actually part of the problem, but then ultimately gets too much attention, so it becomes sort of a cut bait and run kind of thing. We dump that one and we lean into everything else. So it's never one channel, one thing. It's a multifaceted kind of adjustment when the agendas like this are playing out. And this is not my opinion. You can look through history and not know everything they were thinking, but see examples of things that we can later prove. That there was decisions that were made based on the way people responded, where the agenda went a different direction. This is what they do, right? So here we are with the flock camera discussion and where this is building out. So as we discuss this, one, it is happening, and it does matter simply because it's constitutional violations. But at the same time, let's be skeptical of what the focus may be, right? So Jason posts this. And this is simply getting into the examples of people who are continuing to violate, well, whatever you would call it. They're, people like police officers who have access to this stuff who are using it inappropriately. And it's happening everywhere. And I mean, I've talked about every time I've even discussed this, I've had a new example of one of them. And look, I don't even know why it's hard for some people to accept or like why there's pushback. Every single example where there's been something to abuse in history of the U.S. government, it has been abused. Challenge me on that. So in this case, he says, well, it happened again. Another officer caught abusing flock systems, caught by an audit, which raises the real question, how often does this happen when nobody is looking? This pattern isn't an exception. It's a feature of surveillance architecture. Now, what you're going to get, and the reason I want to talk about this first, valid concern. And the point, first of all, that, well, it's a audit. So people will go, well, does not mean that it's working. Well, that's a fair point, but it depends on what we're talking about. We'll come back to that next. But so this person says, Ryan, I'm a longtime fan, but the amount of times that you and Jason have tweeted the same warnings about flock in the last week has become suspicious. Now, who knows if that's good intentioned or not? First of all, flock in regard to me tweeting about flock, it's few and far between, frankly. It's been tweeting of other people, Jason, one of them, who are doing good work on that. Regardless, I don't know what's exactly suspicious about focusing on a topic other than being worried that that might then mean that there's something like manipulative about the topic, if you get what I'm saying. Because question my intentions, question his intentions, question everybody, question everything. Don't just say that for fun, guys. But what I'm saying is, what is suspicious about it other than the act of posting it many times? Which is a fair concern, like maybe. But you see, the suspicion is only that you're worried that there may be something to be suspicious about, which is a secondary thing, because the reality is the content is solid. He's pointing out real concerns. He's giving you real things you can do about it. And he's consistently highlighting the fact that it's being abused. And he's doing good work on that. So I hope you get what I'm saying there, is that I get the sense of being worried about if we're being misguided down a path, even about a real topic. We should always be thinking about that today. But what is it that, it's, unless there's a reason to doubt it, keep that in your mind and be on guard. Question us every time we put something out. But unless there's an actual reason to question it or to think that there's dishonesty, it shouldn't become the assumption that it is manipulative just because he's saying that something this other guy says that you don't like, or whatever the mindset is. Question it all, but have valid reason to actually call it out. This is something we do with all these people every day, talking about the different new media manipulators out there who aren't just, going, look, Flock's bad, but using manipulative tactics to talk about something that undermines the larger point that people like Jason are actually making. Now it says, especially since one, so many bad actors are doing the same. See, that's kind of what's guiding it. Number two, it's not censored at all. Fair point. But see, this is what I'm getting to. Now, it's one of two ways to look at this. And I'm taking this as if this is a genuine thought from a person who actually cares about our content. Because I think it's a real concern. It could be anyway from other people out there, whether this is genuine or not, which is that ultimately, if something is censored on this platform, or rather anything can be, we've seen censorship constantly, but something being censored or not is not a defining factor of whether or not it's real. I mean, this is what I want us to think about. That's like saying because the mainstream media says it, therefore we know the opposite is true. First of all, are we going to think that they, as the establishment manipulators, can't think beyond that point and go, oh, well, if they think that, then let's just tell them the truth. They'll assume it's false. It's very simple secondary point. So think about that, is that whether it's censored or not doesn't then prove one or the other. It could. It's just a data point. And really, no matter what they do, it should be the individual choice, whoever is doing this, to look for themselves. Okay, so someone's posting a lot of this content. Did you look at the content? Is there a problem with the content? Is there something that's being said that you find dishonest or manipulative? If the answer is no, then what are we talking about? Even if the point is the conversation's being used and you falling into that is you somehow inadvertently being used to promote a larger manipulative narrative, it still doesn't make him dishonest unless he's choosing to be dishonest if his content is accurate and well done. Now, this can be confusing for some people, but I find this to be very important. Because right now, there's a lot of honest people who have fallen into sort of their own false binary, which is that it's, there's not nuance anymore. And in this case, there's fair question to ask whether we're supposed to be talking about Flock, but that doesn't mean talking about Flock is inherently dishonest or part of a problem. But ask these questions, as I will every day, especially since I sense the same thing. And I'll show you why with plenty of people out there who are leaning into this conversation in very weird ways. But my sense so far, if you want to hear it, is, and it's my opinion, is that these are people trying to sort of get on top of a conversation that has gotten out of control for the establishment. Could be wrong. That's how I feel this makes sense right now. And I'll adjust that as we go forward if new information comes along. Max says, nobody in the mainstream is talking about Flock, so his emphasis is justified. So this other person is their perspective, and they're right, is that we're not getting, not in the kind of conversation like this. You're getting mainstream that largely goes vandals, and that's it. So it depends on whether we think Twitter is a new version of that versus mainstream media versus independent mainstream alternative media. Yeah, same point, just why it's so visible. These are fair concerns. So keeping that in your mind, let's make sure we're questioning whether or not we're supposed to talk about this. And that's why I started with the point of, even because we should be criticizing the unconstitutional nature of any of these things. But maybe they want us to overfocus on it because there's 3 other companies being built that we don't see. Something like that. Be on guard for that. And remember, this is only one of a much, much, much larger thing that today's show alone will make very clear, but plenty more to get into. The Badged Patriot says this: reading many of the comments regarding Flock cameras is quite obvious many have no idea on the operations of it or safeguards installed, which is probably fair. But I'll leave my point for when I comment here. But that's a fair statement. I mean, there's probably plenty of people, ourselves included, that probably don't have full, all information about everything they're doing on what they say they do to keep everything safe. But is that really the relevant point? He says they post an article on an officer, which I just showed you, that abused it, which is one of an endless string of them, by the way, to prove their point. And this person says, and I smile because that proves the safeguards work. Well, it depends on whether you think the safeguard was constantly being enacted and they're constantly catching them if they're there, or that this was a retroactive decision. It's nuanced in and of itself, and you have to take their word for it. I don't know why anybody would do that. There's a reverence here for authority, clearly the Badged Patriot. But I said, so because the safeguards worked, we just accept the overt violation of our constitutional rights? You're starting on second base here, man. Like, we should be talking about debating whether these can be used properly, or rather, we should not be debating about whether they should be used properly. We should be discussing the fact that however they are used, they violate our rights. Now, there even should be a conversation there. We have a collective conversation, if that's even possible today, of American people, and say, well, do we argue that what we perceive to be our safety benefits from this outweigh our rights? And if we argue that, then we need to reimagine everything, right? Because you don't then just go, well, that one. No, this is a whole conversation about unalienable rights, all of it. So one of them getting bastardized, and then we're long past that conversation, by the way, but people are starting to, dive into it for the first time, which ultimately becomes the idea that these things, if they're violating your rights, we need to have the conversation and decide whether you want to lean into that for whatever it gains you, if you think it does, versus standing true to the foundational elements of this country. That's simple. And look, just so if you don't know, more than once, these things have been ruled unconstitutional. And understand that surveillance broadly not aimed at anything in particular, that is unconstitutional. We have a right to our privacy. Now, you could argue that a private location, for example, has the right to film. Like if I'm filming my front yard and you walk by that camera, that's my property. But the point is, we're talking about the government who then applies that mindset to everywhere we don't have private location. And that is a violation. The government was never meant to do something like that. And how many times we have to cite the founding fathers as you act like, as left and right of our government scream while they believe in the founding fathers, while they bastardize everything they ever thought up. And you can question whether they meant to themselves. But I said, I also don't think that the safeguards work, just in case that wasn't clear, as far too much evidence exists to demonstrate that. But let's start with whether they're even constitutional. Spoiler alert, they're not. So Flock responds to somebody who I don't support, basically saying 5 former Georgia police officers have been arrested for charged with this. Yes, this person likes to make themselves the focal point. But Flock says this is exactly what our safeguards were designed to do. Wait, what? What? This is thousands of first responders use Flock to solve crime. Our permanent audit logs help identify and stop individual case of illegal use. Okay, well, you're talking about 5 people. So first of all, why is this deflection to, well, look, we caught them. Okay, well, why are we opening the door to this possible abuse in the first place? When you can prove they're not catching literally everybody abusing this stuff, especially when they're or how about the point is, I'm sure glad you caught them after they abused my rights, after he spied on his girlfriend while she was in the shower or whatever, which shower is a bad example, but whatever, as they were walking down the street. The point becomes, why are we allowing that in the first place? If you really draw the line correctly, which is your rights first matter, not is it okay, well, it's a violation, but does it keep you safe? We've already lost the point. And secondarily, what you'll love, here's even Twitter. Well, the officer's misuse was detected through an internal audit by the police department. So here you have Flock lying to you. And this is the Flock account that has very little support. It's 6,000 followers, which is crazy to me. And yet it comments under anyone talking about it and blocks comments under everything it posts. By the way, you can come comment here, which keeps happening because everyone knows they block every comment. That's why everybody comes here and goes, nobody believes in you and you're a criminal. And this guy blocks almost everybody. It's just, he's the one calling you a terrorist for pushing back against things that are unconstitutional. But my point is that they're trying to frame this as, and I guess because he's the one that manages the account, that they are the ones doing the due diligence. We caught them because that's how it works. Guess what? He lied. They caught it, and they then used that to claim Flock's doing its job. That's one clear example, but guys, they're inherently dishonest. They're choosing to mislead you for their benefit. That's an alarming company. Here's another example. 3-month-old baby safely recovered after abduction in Marshall County. And it says, last night, a 3-month-old that was kidnapped in Marshall County was located with a Flock camera in totally different county. Crime solved. Missing people found every single day. Well, guess what? Not true. Local community members claim the police stated that Flock was not even necessary, that it appears Flock may have been paying news agencies for favorable coverage. You got to love this, how continually this happens. But whatever, right? Let's let the company that's legally spying on us continue to lie about how it's doing things in your benefit while they knowingly do the opposite. That's not just criminal, guys. That's nefarious. Orwell Day points out they are trying to bargain with us now. They're making the argument that Flock is okay if we, quote, demand transparency and surveillance. See how they're moving the goalpost a little bit? And they write, no, we demand that the cameras don't exist at all. We demand that the cameras come down. Nothing less is acceptable. So knowing that most people, and I hope you can see that if they're doing this, that means that at the very least, the establishment feels most people don't support this. They're pushing the goalpost to say, well, then fine, we give in, we'll demand. Why wouldn't that be the starting point? He answers the question for you, right? But it's about not violating our rights in the first place. Now, Texas in Seattle writes, hey, this guy is the CEO of Flock, and says, hey, Greg, or is it Greg? I believe it's, or Garrett Langley. Of course, interesting last name. I was the head of design for connected devices at Axon when we did the deal with Flock. Texas and Seattle writes, what you may not know is that our CEO, Rick Smith, had met with Vigilant, an automatic license plate reader at the time, ALPR. During the demo, their team pulled up a random Axon, AXON for the podcast, Axon employee's car. A random employee's car from the parking lot, and showed the Axon leadership everywhere that car had been. I mean, think about how dystopian that is. Like, you haven't even, you are being interviewed for the use of this, and your cell is to go look, you can see where that person's car has been. I mean, we're being lied to about what this is all about. That's what people are finding out. It says, I wasn't in the meeting, but I'm told Rick immediately kicked them out of the Scottsdale office. You can make a good case for officers, hell, even politicians, wearing body cameras because it empowers citizens to watch the watchers, even though they so casually go, oops, I forgot it. Oops, the battery died every time they need to. Flock offers no such benefit. Likely, you'll justify the surveillance state you're helping create with platitudes of safer society. But America, now the latter part of this is his opinion, and I'll point out parts I disagree with, but America wasn't founded to be safe. America was founded to be free. Flock is much more compatible with totalitarian countries like China, the UK. Well, let's be real. It's the same point, guys. The UK, the United States, China, despite their own deviation, or rather points of excelling, if you look at it that way, more social credit, more surveillance, they're the same thing, guys. They're all aiming in the same direction. So even if this person has good intention, I guess the argument is to keep America free, even though it's really not at the moment. It's maybe more so than some, or in other ways more than other. Bottom line is, it's if you think, I mean, I agree with what he's saying. Let's put it that way. That whether or not it is what he thinks it is, that's what we should be fighting for. Yes, go shuck it off onto other groups. But the point would be that ultimately they're all dealing with the same thing. And it's not about one country. It's about the people, society, all of us fighting against power structures that want to keep us under their thumb. And so my point is that any of these are dealing with the same thing, and we're no better off than the UK or China for that matter. But it says, as Benjamin Franklin famously summarized America's ethos of rugged individualism, quote, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Now kindly get the Flock out of America. I agree. I think it's an important thing to consider. Now, this is an article from 2025 in May. License plate reader company Flock is building a massive people lookup tool, leak shows. 2025. And a lot of this goes way back in the Trump's first administration. But in this case, we're talking about not just the Flock camera, but ICE and police and different groups using this to retroactively look people up on the database. So it's not just reading your license plate and trying to find crimes. People are using this to find people, which we already know, but they're lying about this. ICE is using it to this day. And so too are plenty of other government-connected elements that are using it, that are in ways that they argue is not allowed to be used. But you've seen this go around, the images and the reality. I just want people to show it goes back a long way, and that it's been being used as something other than what they promised from the very beginning. Secure Privacy here writes, the DHS the Department of Homeland Security signed a $1 billion contract merging passport data, IRS records, HHS files, FBI databases, license plate readers, commercial data brokers into a single targeting system. ICE's surveillance budget alone, $28.7 billion, more than some countries' GDPs. This is nothing if not surveillance infrastructure. I agree. I mean, think about, how do you explain this other than a massive surveillance database, aimed at us? But look, you don't even need to sell people on that, because Trump is literally telling you that's what it's about, but he's just only highlighting the group that you think is the problem. And then he changes that based on who he's talking to, frankly. But as long as he goes, the bad ones over there, immigrants, the Friend de Aragua, the Democrat. Well, the point is, whoever ends up having control of that, which guess what? It becomes just the government, who we love to pretend is one or the other, the side, the left or the right. No, it's just the government that loves to pit us against each other so it can take more power over our lives. that will now have that power and will be used on whoever they want to pretend the next person is. Or if you want to think Democrats, will be used against you next. This is a surveillance infrastructure, a control grid, as Catherine calls it. It's not even debatable anymore. And this is the contract, in case you want to read more into it, from February 2026. The DHS opens a $1 billion tab with, Palantir, which you already know. We've covered this extensively. This is all just kind of weaving through all of this to show you how it all ties together, and this wasn't by accident. But again, think about the unsiloed information, right? The things that used to be separate that are now jammed into one database to better surveil you, to better control you. And of course, who has access to that? Israel, other tech companies, Palantir. And this is not even debatable. All of this is a problem. All of this is illegal. All of this is unconstitutional. But guess what? They don't seem to care about that. John Rich, of course, and you might have seen this going around, body cam footage. There's so many examples like this. Body cam footage of in Minnesota reveals a man who reviews cars was surrounded by police because a flock camera mistakenly said his vehicle was stolen. It was not. And they get violent. This is one of the examples where they're truly violent, but I'll show you some of the ICE examples where that keeps happening. But as John Rich says, this is not right. Flock cameras are leading to what amounts to the swatting of people like this man. This could have ended very badly. It seems to me to be unconstitutional. Seems to be. Geez, I'm wondering why you're being so wishy-washy. It is unconstitutional, John, which you would say if it was Biden doing it. The point is, you guessed who this is going to, right now, this is rolling out under the purview of Donald Trump's administration. And these people seem to be, bending over backwards to not be like, why are you doing this? Like, why aren't you calling out Donald Trump's administration? Why aren't you calling out any number of elements that lead right back to what they're all literally building? Palantir included. Just standing up and kind of just broadly into the air going, it's bad, and we see it. And then I'm glad he's at least saying that. But what it shows you is these people all know this is a problem, and I guess are just too afraid now that he has a position in Trump's government to call out who's actually pushing this. But it's not just Trump either. It's been rolling out long before, but also goes back to the first administration of Trump. It's all of your government, guys. But just think about that. How you're not going to have the courage to call out what's actually driving this. More Perfect Union, which, by the way, put out a post we're going to talk about in the next show, highlighting exactly what we've been talking about with Prospera, Peter Thiel, and the network state agenda. This has got like 700,000 views. Great. I'm really, really happy it's getting discussed. But I just find it crazy how we can bang our head against a wall with same old story. But More Perfect Union reports Cleveland organized to get rid of flock and won. But instead of accepting the democratic process, the mayor and the city council president forced a revote. Do you know what party they ascribe to, ladies and gentlemen? So residents are coming out again to testify against the AI surveillance company, and some are spitting fire. Yeah, so Republican-led. And of course, it's not a secret, and that's not about one side or the other. Both parties, all of our government, all of them benefit from this, guys. But for those that somehow think it's not applicable to this current power structure, they are absolutely, in this case, ignoring what people want and doing it anyway. Shouldn't be hard to see. It's everywhere.
Support flock and a whole. Cameras don't prevent crime. As our previous comment I made, we do need to invest in our youth and our cities. There's a lot of complaints in the last week, right? It was really hot. We had power outages. The pools aren't all open. That's the stuff that your residents want, and that would help reduce crime because it gives people a place to go and something to do. They're not frustrated. Why do people commit crime? Because they're desperate. They're not committing crime because they're well off and have a happy life and all of their needs are met. Their needs are not met, and that's why they're committing these crimes. So we need to focus on helping our residents live good lives in this city, and obviously we need to equip the police with resources. But those resources don't need to be for-profit companies' goals are to increase shareholder value. That's how a for-profit tech company works. Their goal is to get as big as possible and then either go on the public stock exchange or sell to someone else and make their investors money. We are not their investor. They're not in it for us. We are their products. Our data is their products. And they're not going to always be honest. You cannot trust a big tech company not to lie. We know this from many other big tech companies. It's not a surprise. It's sort of how business works, unfortunately. And so we need to keep them out of our city and focus on nonprofit and government solutions that we control and have access to. And it's just sort of built for the people, by people, for the people. And there's a lot of people in the city that help us do that. I think that's all I got to say. I know I've worked time, but I hope you continue to vote no. Again, we are going to meet this though 2 weeks ago. It's been asked. Keep the thing on.
Yep. And then ignored it anyway and did what they wanted. Not new. Right. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in government at this point that's on our side. I mean, I think it's a rapidly dwindling, the sociopaths recognize the benefit. I mean, I don't know how else it's just so continual that this seems to be the reality. And we'll show you a clip in a minute from another local government where they're being asked directly whether they have NDAs for data centers, and they won't even answer the question. These people are profiteers, guys. They're stuffing their pockets, and the people that are actually potentially doing it for the right reasons get pushed out because it's like a corrupt police department, right? You're the one that's going to do the job without stealing money. Well, you're going to get killed. You're going to get fired because nobody trusts the one that doesn't take any money. This is where we are today. And I don't think that's even hard to see. Just a story you might have seen going around. This is just an AI sort of the video somebody made about it. But this is being widely discussed where they're now it's this Cape Coral. Leaders are proposing AI cameras on on garbage trucks to scan your homes and your yards for code violations. I'm sure the HOA is going to love that. High grass, unpermitted renovations. I mean, my God. And it says we already have flock cameras on poles watching the streets. Now to be clear, this is being proposed. As far as I can tell, it hasn't happened yet. But this is not one location. This is a person saying Dallas has hundreds of these. I mean, whether it's the trash can, we are being inundated with massive once it becomes ubiquitous surveillance, it's going to be, it's everywhere. So who cares? That's what they're already trying to create. All of this violates our rights. Oh, and here's just an article in case you want to read more on that. Cape Coral exploring AI cameras on garbage truck, code enforcement. Really? Make sure your grass is certain. I mean, so let's go ahead and violate your constitutional rights to make sure the grass is a certain level. Shows you how little they care. Orwell Day points out Flock has been used to target journalists and suppress freedom of the press. This is the article that got this journalist tracked by police using Flock cameras for weeks until the eventual police confrontation. Do you think he was targeted because of his anti-Flock position? License plate cameras will soon track phones, wearables, infotainment, and even your pets. I was just talking about this. This is not a joke. We just talked about this, guys. I want to play a clip of some next generation type surveillance to put in your mind, where this is. I mean, first of all, already is. Not to say that flock cameras do this, but where the tech already is. So we need to consider where this is going, but just realizing that the idea of what the Leonardo signal trace additional things, which are very clearly part of this conversation, many argue are already happening. All they do is add it to the Flock device that's already there. You wouldn't even know the difference, and it can absorb your text messages, and it can spy on people to a degree that is, some people don't even think is real. And so I want you to think about where the tech already is and whether or not this is something your government's capable of.
This paper, the one that happened even after this, which is already better, uses stable diffusion, uses the thing that you use to make art. What should a thing that you use to make art have anything to do with reading your brain? But of course it goes further. So in this one, they said, can they understand the inner monologue, the things you're saying to yourself in your own mind? Mind you, by the way, when you dream, your visual cortex runs in reverse, so your dreams are no longer safe. But we'll try this. So they had people watch a video and just narrate what was going on in the video in their mind. So there's a woman, she gets hit in the back, she falls over. This is what the computer reconstructed the person thinking. See a girl, looks just like me, get hit in the back, and then she is knocked off. So our thoughts are starting to be decoded. Yeah, just think about what this means for authoritarian states, for instance. Or if you want to generate images that maximally activate your pleasure sensor, anything else. Okay, but let's keep going, right? To really get the sense of the combinatorics of this.
Real quick additional point, the images that, the whatever he said, the pleasure sensors, think about that in the context of how AI is creating things today. In the sense of things that are not just made in a song you enjoy, but actually manipulates you into wanting it more, even though you may not like the actual song. It gets into weird stuff like that, which is not hypothetical. It's not just having a passionate song that resonates with you, but having some kind of manipulated, whether you're talking about music or video is a very different thing when you get into the neuroscience side of it. But these are not hypotheticals. Even though people will choose to act like it's crazy that you said that, you can show plenty of ongoing, decades-old science talking about this kind of stuff. What I'm saying is today, with the artificial intelligence created content, that it goes to another level than just making things sound good or look good. It's a manipulative side of this. And I think that's being employed. And so what he's saying on top of that is how this can be sort of a, at least as I'm hearing it, I'm looking at it sort of like a backdoor for that very manipulation. But this is where it gets even crazier, where we've talked about many times, using Wi-Fi to map what's around it. That's been available for a long time. And everyone's got one of those right in their living room. Hopefully not, but in their house. And think about that with the context of what's happening everywhere, guys.
How about, can we go from Wi-Fi radio signals, sort of like the Wi-Fi routers in your house, they're bouncing off radio signals that work sort of like sonar. Can you go from that to where human beings are, to images? So what they did is they had, a camera looking at a space with people in it. That's sort of like coming in from one eye. The other eye is the radio signals, so sonar from the Wi-Fi router. And they just learned to predict, this is where the human beings are. Then they took away the camera. So all the AI had was the language of radio signals bouncing around a room. And this is what they're able to reconstruct. Real-time 3D pose estimation, right? So suddenly AI has turned every Wi-Fi router into a camera that can work in the dark, specially tuned for tracking living beings.
Now take that to a whole other level as well. Like when you get into audio, like reverberation, these are all these things. The way they've built this setup is just a massive surveillance absorbing tool, just absorbing data nonstop. Now, the problem before all this, 9/11 discussion, was that they weren't able to parse through it, or whatever the correct word would be. They couldn't look at it fast enough to be able to get, it was sort of retro, at least as we were told, that you look back and you could know what you're looking for. Oh, it was in there, but ultimately weren't able to actually break it all down. Well, today with the AI dynamic, it's different. The argument anyway, that now these things are being real-time assessed and it's dystopian. So thinking about that, using this to spy on all of us, let's talk about two actual main things. But in this case, we just discussed the next level tech, which we were just highlighting, and calling you a terrorist for calling out the problem, not just resisting data centers, which is a huge part of that, saying that Flock shouldn't exist. As we've already seen, he's calling you a terrorist for caring about that. Despite, and let's see, remember, even Flock has a guy tied directly to Israeli intelligence that's been there for years. I find that to be a problem. You may not. I think it matters with what they're publicly doing in the world and what the Israeli government says. We're talking about intelligence. That's the government, guys. But according to the CEO of Flock Safety, we are all terrorists. This isn't new. We've already covered this. Labeling calls to reveal camera locations as terroristic. He called DFlock a terrorist organization. I mean, that's quite alarming, especially since it's not a crime and not unconstitutional. What they're doing is both of those things. The Antichrist chef says, or the anarchist chef, says, open air and free range prisons for all. Now, this is more of a projection into the future as I read it. Sean says, effective immediately. Now, think about this as it uncomfortably connects with the COVID-19 timeframe. Effective immediately. Stay-at-home order is in place, signed by executive order of the president. Any travel will be illegal for the next 15 days. Now, you fill in the blank why. New pathogen, Iran terror cells, whatever. Democrats, whatever the narrative becomes. Tren de Aragua marching through the streets. Okay. Shut down. Any travel will be illegal for 15 days. Our partner Flock Safety will help us keep people safe by automatically reporting any violators to local law enforcement. This is what the future looks like under big data and Flock. I mean, think about that. Think about COVID-19 with these things on every door, every corner, every park, every beach, which is what they're doing. That's what they're building, guys. And I don't know why some people choose not to see that. I believe most of them do. But here's a clip that shows you the evolution of this from 2024 to today. Rapidly. From Biden's administration, of course, it's Trump's administration that started. You can't miss that, guys. This is how it always goes. Why people like us are, sadly, I don't like being right about the insane collaboration of, but it continues to be the case. People who are arguing from a nonpartisan perspective are routinely shown to be correct. Now here's Flock safety. Why do critics claim otherwise? The question is, does Flock share information data with ICE? No, Flock does not. Okay, well, it says, why do they say otherwise? Well, Flock does have established federal customers, including national parks, veterans affairs, hospitals, and military bases. Well, that's not even the full list, by the way, but so the U.S. government is what you should take from that. These organizations can establish one-to-one sharing relationships with any other legal law enforcement. Got it. So you created a loophole, just like everything else you seem to be doing. The loophole is, well, the government works with us. The government has access to that. We don't give access to ICE, but the government can give them access to the same thing. Cool. And it says, any other legal law enforcement agency on Flock safety platform where applicable laws allow it. Yeah, because clearly they care about the laws. And only when communities explicitly allow federal data access. Well, that's just flatly not true. We've seen endless examples of their own local government saying they don't even apply, or they don't abide by what they agree to, or they alter the contract after the fact. This is from 2025 May. ICE taps into nationwide AI-enabled camera network, data shows. Yeah, so they're lying, by the way, in case you didn't catch that already. And it was obvious. This is just not even a loophole. I mean, let's be real. ICE has been given access to this. I mean, this is how I would look at it. This administration, Trump in particular, is the kind of person who would go, yeah, like, let's make this make it look like we're not involved. Like, instead of just continuing to make it look like you're accessing it through somebody else, they just give ICE access. And Flock has to maintain the lie. That's my opinion. But whatever it is, guys, they're accessing the information, which what we just showed you already makes that clear, because it's obvious this government doesn't care about your rights, any of them, left or right. Here's an article from Electric Frontier Foundation. Are your local police using Flock safety license plate readers to scan for immigrants? Or really just fill in the blank to scan for whatever they decide to scan for, which is the point. Buried in the Flock safety administrative interface, there's a drop-down menu where agencies select which NCIC topics to subscribe to, meaning different, focal points of surveillance. And it says, if immigration violator, which is one of those categories, is selected, the local agency will receive an alert that a vehicle ICE is looking for has been cited. According to Flock Safety, ICE itself does not get an alert, although the local agency, the group they're working with, may contact ICE to let them know, or literally be standing there with them and going, there it is, right there, go. We're talking about police, guys. We're talking about local law enforcement. We're talking about any number of other groups that actively work alongside them. And it says many agencies also participate in collaborate with immigration enforcement. You don't see what a lazy loophole that is? I mean, it's not even, you're just openly, it's one step removed. I mean, that's like saying that, well, the vice president's not allowed, but Trump can access it. Well, gee, I wonder if Trump will let him look through, it's just an obvious sidestep. This is how dumb they think we are and how dishonest they are. Now, here's an interesting, funny point. So this is important to highlight. This is the kind of thing that I'm seeing more and more and more from any number of these, but in particular on this platform. So asking this, does ICE have access to Flock cameras? And it says, no, ICE does not have access. And again, the point is, I already know that they do, and I thought I was curious what Grok is going to say. And I said, no. And you can read through it. And I simply said, well, it basically says, though, when you go through it, that sidestep. So there's no, ICE does not have direct access. And so basically direct, right? So I said, so the answer is yes. And this is not exactly. It's yes indirectly, but no to direct access. I said, so show me where I wrote direct anywhere, right? So the point is, this is how this platform just inserts its own metrics to be able to answer a way that the system has been programmed to answer. Nope, that's not what's happening. Well, I didn't write direct, did I? I just said access. And it says, you're right. You didn't write direct anywhere. And I said, yet you inserted it in order to say no, even though the answer is clearly yes. Yes, correct. I introduced the direct qualifier, and I shouldn't have framed it with the initial answer around when your question didn't specify that. Yes, ICE does have access to Flock data. Now, think about how stupid that is. Think how it takes 3-4 prompts to get it to answer. This is why you cannot rely on these things in any sense for accurate information. It's a tool. If you choose to use it, Frankly, every day it seems to be more and more manipulative. So I just think that's important to highlight that we know this, and even it does. But it answers with no. And you know how many people take that and move on without even looking further? That's what they want from you guys. Wired, 2024. ICE signs $2 billion contract with spyware maker Paragon Solutions, the NSO group, the Israeli intelligence criminal enterprise. And Donald Trump, actually, grab that. I forgot that one. What was it? I think it's this one. Yeah. Spyware maker NSO group is paving the path back to Trump's America. Donald Trump literally signed contracts with a group that has been caught breaking the law all around the world through Israeli intelligence. It's not even a secret. It's one of the most widely acknowledged spyware maker, the companies that have been caught spying on presidents and journalists, and Trump made a contract with them. As if we don't need any more obviousness in all of this. But so the point in this, first of all, is ICE is working with groups like Palantir, like Israeli intelligence, like NSO Group and Paragon Solutions and Cellbrite and Clearview AI and all the things we're talking about. And so just making it one more thing is the flock camera connection. It's all interconnected is the point here. This one as well, we just showed you, and this is Wired. ICE is using Palantir's AI tools to sort through tips. As I just said, same point, just they're all interconnected. This was on the 2025 August. ICE to use Immigration OS by Palantir, new AI system to track immigrant movements, or, whatever they use it for next. It's about justifying its use through people who don't understand how that works. Now, ICE, as I'm demonstrating, is absolutely using all of this. So what I want to highlight in this next part is just a few examples that this never stopped. I mean, this is an article we put out. Oh, wait, did I? Oh, it's on Twitter. It's right here. ICE has already been caught lying in court about claims of being run over, being shot at numerous times. And I mean, literally proven in court to be caught lying. And so the U.S. government retracts its claims, pulls back the suit, and they just try to be quiet about it over and over and over. And you know what happens? Maybe these people get slightly penalized. Usually they get quietly moved somewhere else, which has been happening forever. Police, Catholic Church, same deal. They just kind of shuttle them away somewhere else. This is what they do. My point, though, is that this administration is they want this from them. They praised this from them. So they keep doing it. They keep lying. They keep getting people who are unjustly arrested or whatever the circumstance is. And then because they embarrass them, because they get away, whatever it is, they make up a story about how they shot at them. They hit me with a shovel. They shot, and it's all lie. And I mean, in the examples I'm showing you, they're lying. Consistently lying about these things. And then we just keep moving forward. So the point is, this is what's coming to you next. This is the new enforcement arm. It's using the same kind of technology. It's using the same flock cameras. It's being tied in with Israeli intelligence. It's all the same conversation. So in this case, another one, this is July 9th. The ICE story around the man it shot is unraveling rapidly. Now, this is a local media from KHOU 11. ICE claims that this person drove into one of their SUVs with the van, then tried to run over an agent. There were no marks on their van. No surveillance footage shows them doing that. And as more of it comes out in this clip, as you can watch for yourself, it proves they lied. Over and over, the ICE story around it unravels rapidly with no evidence that he rammed anyone, with video showing ICE actually ramming his vehicle. Making matters worse, ICE had no body cameras. Oops. Despite having gotten $29.9 billion in 2025 that they could have used them. Guys, this is a choice because there's no accountability. It's rampant lawlessness. This administration wants that from them. And really, I think the government. But as I said, this goes back to Pretty and Good. They've been caught relentlessly being shown to be lying about horrible things. And I mean like a group of 5 ICE members who were all there, and they all lie to a man about the entire story, and then it turns out they all lied and barely anything happens, let alone in a large review of how this continues to be a problem. Now, here is Kristi Noem, who no longer is in the position, who lied right to your face about a Minneapolis terrorist woman attack. They've lied about all of these conversations, guys. Here's another example. I'll play this one for you. ICE's latest lie about these operations led this person to a case where agents profiled and arrested him. And guess what, guys? He's a U.S. citizen. Not new. I mean, it's happened more times than you'll probably even understand. Most people, like even our audience, would probably be shocked to find out how many U.S. citizens are consistently detained, arrested, beat up by ICE because they have a certain look to them. and realize, as we've already proven, they get benefits whether or not there's a charge. Whether or not they have to cut them loose right after they arrest them, ICE members are still benefiting from that. And that's why they're driving the arrest numbers so Stephen Miller can scream about how many arrests they had that day, even though they're lying to you and he knows it.
Angel Ponce says ICE agents approached him on his way to work. This happened on Wednesday. He says he told them his name, showed them a valid identification, and repeatedly explained that he was born right here in Texas with no criminal record. Nonetheless, ICE agents took Mr. Ponce into custody and questioned him for more than 2 hours.
Now, what do you think? I haven't been able to find out whether, I'm sure this will flesh out more. What we've already been seeing is stuff that AI has played a factor. He showed him his ID. Guys, he literally said, I'm a U.S. citizen. Here's my driver's license. What are we talking about? And they arrested him anyway, saying he had a deportation order, guys. Do you think it was an AI flock camera or something else that said we got the match? That keeps happening right now. Or do they just not care? I mean, no matter how you spin this, we're talking about American citizens, not like it should matter any more than anybody else's rights, guys. But at the end of the day, you have American citizens in the United States who are being accosted by law enforcement, militarized law enforcement in the middle of the day. There's nothing sacred to these people. He can prove he's a U.S. citizen, and they arrest him based on their arbitrary narratives anyway. And they detain him and they hold him. If you care about any of these things, if you care about anything Republicans pretend to care about, or just constitutional rights or anything, then you need to call this out and realize that you are not supporting, none of the government supports your rights. And it's time we really acknowledge that.
I was born in College Station, Texas. There's no way, what's going on? And they said, no, we're going to do our investigation. Pretty much felt kidnapped. They just put me in there, said I have a deportation order, put me in handcuffs, and took me to another location.
Now, a spokesperson for ICE tells us agents were looking for a wanted violent criminal.
Always, as if that justifies the illegal actions and unconstitutional detentions.
In the area, but admit that Mr. Ponce was, quote, temporarily taken into custody by mistake.
God.
The agency adds that they apologized to Mr. Ponce and took him home, but Mr. Ponce says none of that actually happened.
Oh, so they didn't apologize. They didn't take him home. Oh, they lied. I'm shocked. Regardless of the lies, which just show you they're a bunch of children with too much power, we're talking about the reality that you accosted a U.S. citizen who proved who he was with his identification, and you arrested him anyway, probably just to say, you know what, we can do that because they think that, because clearly they can right now. Doesn't that bother anybody? It should. You could be next. They don't need justification anymore. This is just, we'll round you up because we decide to. This is everything Trump said he was fighting, everything Biden said he was fighting, everything this government pretends that it's not. Aaron Melnick says, remember last week it came out in court that ICE outright invented a fake murder attempt on one of their officers and tried to send a man to prison for decades on claims that he choked an agent, even though they were the ones who actually put the guy in a chokehold, and that literally got proven in court. Oh yeah, that story. Well, here's another example. It just doesn't stop. How is this even continuing? It's like every other conversation. How is the genocide still happening? Everyone can see it. We all know this is unjustified. People are either honest or not. Jesus freaking Congress continues to cover these. ICE agents were caught on video entering a U.S. citizen's home without a warrant. This is covered by the local media. Warrantless arrest inside a Salt Lake home. This is not new, guys. Do I have to reiterate how many times Donald Trump has said we might arrest U.S. citizens, we might deport U.S. citizens if they bop a grandma on the head or whatever nonsense he's spinning? There's no legal reality there, guys, but here we are arresting U.S. citizens, breaking into their homes with no warrant for no reason, under the guise that they're somehow deportable. Tackling the father to the ground in their own home with no warrant while pinning down his 15-year-old grandson. As the family repeatedly told agents they were U.S. citizens and demanded to see a warrant, the agents ignored them. The daughter, just how about the warrant point alone? At what point did we just stop caring about warrants? Well, they tried to make the argument they didn't need them as ICE. And so they just go forward as if that's the truth. It's not the truth, guys. If that's the truth, then you don't have any rights in your home if the ICE decides to go to your front door. It's not true. But Trump argues that, and they just go forward. The daughter began recording and repeatedly asked to see a warrant, but they refused. She also told agents her daughter is diabetic, and the teenager they were restraining was only 15 years old. The agents continued to arrest both U.S. citizens from their home without a warrant, eventually releasing the child, but taking the father. The Fourth Amendment, I mean, even that, let's just even say the father was the crime. What about the children? What about anybody else's rights? There's not just this no holds barred ability for them to just go after anybody they assume might be what they're looking for. The Fourth Amendment prohibits government agents from entering a home without a judicial warrant. They tried to do that different warrant, but that legally doesn't apply. Either way, they don't have the right to do this, because even that one they were trying to use only applied to as if someone they were going for ended up going into somebody else's home, but even that doesn't apply. It has to be their home. And they just manipulate this. You have a right in your home, no matter who you have in that house, to have them. Your constitutional rights are unalienable. They don't get to go into your house without having a judicial warrant from a judge, but they do, and they don't care. The federal agents can force their way into U.S. home, ignore repeated demands to produce a warrant, and use force without lawful authority. They aren't just violating one family's rights. They're undermining one of the core constitutional principles of that America was founded on. A free country depends on the government being bound by the Constitution. If those limits can be ignored, what consequences? Without consequences, we are no longer a free country. Well, that's long since been the reality, guys. But understand, these people are only demonstrating very brazenly that they've never cared about these things. And she also points out, oh, here's another example of an ICE agent just randomly pushing a kid to the ground because he's filming, got in his face.
Every single one.
That's a child. Move back. Like you're in a public location, you're not allowed to film them. Well, that's how they're pretending. That's how they're acting. These are criminals. These are the pirates out there, as they accuse everybody else of being what they are doing. Here's this. Actually, just for time in general, but I'll play a little bit real quick. Oh, actually, no, I think I didn't get that one. I think I grabbed the wrong one. In any case, the point is the same. I mean, I really hope you will go check all of these out and realize how broken this is. Karthik says they interviewed all three witnesses separately, and they all said the same thing. Washington Post covered this. I mean, the only reason I'm including these guys just in passing is because these are a dime a dozen. Happens every day. And these stories are verified through other videos, court documentation, where they get forced to dismiss the case. It's not hyperbolic. It's not assumptive. They did not ram the car. ICE agents fired at them and then mocked Mr. Salgado as he lay there dying. That's the person they shot and then just took off. But now we find out they lied about the whole thing and then murdered a man in the street and then just took off, and nothing's probably going to happen, like Renee Good, like Preddy, like the rest of them, because these people hate you. I mean, how else do we describe this? These are the ones with America first, as they're murdering Americans in the street using Israeli intelligence spyware. Maybe we should reflect on this. Here's the example of the video just playing. And this is actually the same cop, by the way, in the same circumstance, that one you just saw that she pinned below. And here's the same cops. So they're arresting somebody who, by the way, it's up in the air in regard to this person. As he's already being held, they slam his head into the rock. But the point is about the people who are filming. I don't care what you want to call them. I don't care what kind of Republican childish nonsense you want to throw about anybody filming ICE is somehow Antifa stopping a child. It's certainly possible, but realize regardless of what you call them, they have a right to do it. They have a right as Americans to film whatever side they're on, whatever's happening. That's the legal right upheld by the courts roundly. So when they're filming these people who are routinely breaking the law, gee, I wonder why we should film them. They get violent. They get angry. Why? Because they're routinely breaking the law. It's not hard to understand. My point is, these filming people, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. No matter how irritating you may think that is, no matter what you think of their political opinions as you assume what they may be, these people have a right to do this.
Sir, what is your name?
By the way, he has a legal right to ask that. He has a legal responsibility to tell you his name, which they never do, which they never provide information, which is a crime, has been for a long time, puts his mask up because he knows he's being watched. Look what he does.
Back up now! Back up! Do you have a name? Back up! Do you have a name?
What are they doing?
Go. Do you have a name?
They're in a...
Go. I'm not in your way. Walk. Go.
I'm not in your way.
Back I'm not in your way. Walk. Back up. Walk. I'm not in your way. I'm not in your way. I'm not in your way. Back up now. Your car's there. I'm not in your way. Back up.
Because they know they feel threatened. You know why? Because they are a threat. Because what they're doing is a threat to everybody. Every American that watches this knows what they're doing is unjustified. What they're doing, well, I mean, of course, if you're watching what they're doing to people, hopefully you care about that and don't just go, oh, well, a brown person, we shouldn't care. The reality is they feel threatened because what they're doing is threatening. What they're doing is unjustified. What they're doing is unconstitutional. But how many times do we see people doing anything other than filming? I'm sure it's out there. And if they do something, well, you can arrest them for it. What they're doing is attacking you for filming because of whatever narrative they spin. And they have been going after people. They have been trailing people. They have been surveilling people. They have gone after people just for filming and arrested them on unjust causes, and they were released. This is all essentially, torture is the wrong word, but what's the better word? They're doing it to be punitive. They're violating your rights. They're breaking U.S. law because they can. Shouldn't be much more confusing than that, guys. I mean, or much more, it shouldn't be, it can't get any more clear, put it that way. These people are not on the side of American rights. I don't know how that could be America first. Now, play this a little bit ago. Jason Bassler, anyone ever see Elon Musk say a word about flock cameras? Pro, against, condemnation, anything? Funny how he's out there screaming about any number of things in similar conversations elsewhere. The guy's a hypocrite, guys. No, Elon is helping build the prison around us. That's what he's doing. Here is a example of a American citizen speaking to their local government and asking direct questions about whether they have some kind of NDA or contract with a data center. You might not be surprised to hear how they respond.
You personally signed any NDA, any agreement, or had any private communication, such as meetings, phone calls, text messages, or emails, with any developer, company, landowner, or representative regarding any current or potential project that could affect Tyrone Township? Chris Ropetta.
No.
Dean?
No.
Jennifer?
I'm not answering your question. This is not the time or place.
I can ask you whatever I want. Don't tell me what I can say.
But we don't have to answer your.
But you're communicating with me, Jennifer. I didn't think you were supposed to do that.
Right. So specifically, I'm not answering that question. So she can make up whatever excuse she wants. She's not the only one, by the way. How is that even possible? Like, they're supposed to be accountable to you. But, oh, that's right. That's the naive lie we still tell ourselves. That are the living embodiment of our will. Guys, are we really pretending that? These people don't care about what you think. They use the illusion of the consent of the governed to get power, and then they disregard whatever you asked for. It's been that way my entire life.
Greg Carnes, how about you? Yes or no?
Not the place. We've already discussed this. So
who's already discussed it? I'm sorry? Who's already discussed it?
This has been discussed.
Who has? Who's discussed it? I've not discussed this with you. What are you saying? Pam Moffler? Yes or no?
You work for us. That's right.
Yep. It says you work for us.
Herman Ferguson? Won't answer? Zach Tucker?
Mike, stop. You say guilty one more time?
Look, guys, you have to understand how simple this is. I mean, I'm not going to pretend because they don't answer that we know they do, but why is that complicated? I don't have any I don't have any obvious conflicts of interest with things that we're building. That should be an easy answer. But you can't argue because they don't that you know for sure. That's just being objective. But I mean, it clearly opens a door why those first two immediately say no. I get the sense there's some kind of division happening here where they know these people have conflicts of interest with local data centers, and she's calling them out for it. I mean, this is not unique. It's in every place this is happening. The local governments are profiting from what's happening at the expense of their own people.
You're out.
Won't answer? Zach Tucker?
Mike, stop. You say guilty one more time? You're out.
Oh, so now he can't speak? Guy in the audience is guilty. You can't, you better not. We're going to abuse our power even further. Drunk on their own power, clearly.
I'm not tolerating.
Stop the clock, please. While Greg's talking, I'd like my time back, please.
I don't need the comment in the background.
I need my time back. And quit interrupting me. Zach Tucker? But you answered at the Planning Commission. but you've decided not to answer now. Well, at least you're not looking as angry at me this time. I guess you're checking yourself.
You see, you know what's funny? It's not even secret, guys. These people don't, like, if we're to believe the argument, that's supposed to be how this is supposed to work. There should be like reverent. We care what you think because we're doing what you want from us, right? That's not what happens. These people hate her for that. And I guarantee if there wouldn't be animosity if they were just complying, because it shouldn't be some kind of a weird issue. That's what they're supposed to be doing. Your job is to act out the will of the people of your county. But it's just not the reality. So what she's highlighting is they have contracts and influence and conflicts of interest with groups that are building things the people of that county do not want. And as we just showed you before, that people can stand up and vote against things, they'll happen anyway. Like Cleveland, right? Flock cameras. Well, no, we're just going to remove the vote because we don't. So everyone can vote against, including people in the government, and they don't care. We're in a very dangerous time. As Max says, how the F is it even remotely legal for a politician to sign an NDA with a corporation to hide information from their constituents? Because we don't live in the world we think we do. It's not legal. That's the point, though. So arrest them. Somebody, get them, arrest them. Oh, no one cares? That's the problem right there, guys. The power, the enforcement arm doesn't care. Maybe we can change that. Deadly bacteria found in major U.S. city wastewater system tied to Mark Zuckerberg's data center. Just an interesting side note that you have an overlap. It's just one of an endless amount of problems these things create for the local communities. Just one example. It's happening everywhere, whether it's resource abuse, pollution, bacteria. Wake up. Now, on a connected point to this, in the EU, you might have seen this going around, July 9th, Parliament greenlights chat control 1.0. Today, the European Parliament allowed the suspicionless mass scanning of private communications to pass. Suspicion. You don't need a justification. We're just going to mass scan everyone's communications. Like, they're just taking the mask off, guys. Although a majority of voting members of the European Parliament actually opposed the regulation. Opposed it. 314 against, 276 in favor. Despite that, the motion to reject it failed to secure the required absolute majority. So it passed anyway. What? How does that even make sense? So who cares what they vote? This is why the EU is an illusion. They're not even in charge of their countries, guys. The EU, it's like a bureaucratic overlord, even over people that get supposedly elected in these countries. At the end of the day, this is insane. This shows you there's a marching order that's larger than any country, any union that is moving forward, regardless of what even the people in power are doing. I just hope we can start to reflect on what this is showing us. There's a much larger thing happening here. We are living through a greater transition. This is the Great Reset. It never stopped. Left and right, global discussion. It's happening right in front of us. And there are other people making these points. I hope, again, we can do something right now before it becomes too late. And then you get these fake patriots all over the place, like Mike Lee here, coming out and saying, even Valuetainment, I can't laugh at that name enough, posting this, saying, just in, all new cars in the EU are now required to include infrared cameras that monitor the driver's eyes and face for distraction. Yeah, totally. It's terrible. It's insane. But guess what? It's been happening in the U.S. for a long time. So as they hype and scream and point somewhere else, there's a reason they're doing that. Mike Lee says, nope, not here, not in America. And either he's that stupid or he's that dishonest or both. You can decide. That's what we are. Just a bunch of fake patriots trying to gaslight you into the control grid while stuffing their pockets. Call them out, guys. As the Even Twitter fact check says, Section 24220 of the 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act mandates all new passenger vehicles in the U.S. be equipped with technology to monitor their performance and impairment. I just talked about this with the rental car I dealt with. But my point about this is these people are grifting and lying and fronting, gaslighting. They want you to think they're the ones fighting it and calling other ones. It's like Elon Musk screaming about what EU's doing for the Online Child Act. It's the same stuff happening here. They just are deflecting. They don't want you to see what's happening. On just the connection to Israel, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the group right now that is, rather the Board of Peace that Robert was just talking about, the larger kind of New World Order transition point. Don't forget, actually, I'll grab that article. See whichever one pops up. Yeah. Oh, no, I'll just grab this one. This is Haaretz writing about what Netanyahu said when speaking about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is a disgusting joke of a term. What's wrong with that? How Israel trained and armed ISIS-linked Gaza militia. So these weren't people, the groups from Gaza, largely the people that they were, brought in from other locations. The point is that these are ISIS elements that the Israeli government's working with, and they were the foundation for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and were used to feed the Gaza population. No, not at all what happened. That was the illusion, as Mel highlights right here. The food drops were one of the most sadistic events in recent history. Now, we remember they were just executing people. That's what that Green Beret veteran came back and told everybody. Major story, barely got any attention, at least not in the right ways. Israel imposed a total blockade for almost 2 months last spring, trying to exhaust food storage, deliberately starving all these people, then set up these food distribution centers without enough food for everyone, with the goal of luring Hamas, or what I argue just Palestinians in groups, into the open, since they would presumably be faster and more capable of securing food boxes, their narrative anyway. Then they used facial recognition cameras on the cranes around the sites to identify potential matches and gunned them down in the chaos, according to new reports. I mean, because this is the whole point. So many parallels to this. What they're doing right now everywhere. There's AI surveillance. We could talk about these 972 articles of Lavender and Habsora. They're AI Palantir murder systems that are happening still in Gaza, or how this is being set up all across the United States or elsewhere in the world. They use this under the guise of feeding people to literally kill people that they got the right record. Of course, let's assume they even got the right AI data, because it's not wrong, right? Or that they even care, or they're using it as an excuse to just mow down Palestinians. It's all... it kills me when we can prove stuff like this and it seems to do nothing. I don't care whether you think they're Hamas or not, that you're using the starvation of the people you created and otherwise lied about to then go after people you claim are Hamas. There's no parallel, guys. These people are pure evil. And they're working with the very people they claim they're trying to fight around the world, because that's what's always going on. One quick other parallel to this. I didn't even heard much about this. There's a parallel kind of Google Maps dynamic that's been being used and being sort of sold to people as the alternative to the surveillance Google dynamic. Well, guys, be on guard for this, because it is everywhere right now. This is what I think the whole network state agenda is all about: getting ahead of the people who are seeing the collapse. They're recognizing that we don't want what they're selling anymore, and so they're what's the logical alternative? We want more freedom. We want a libertarian base, or whatever people would call for, right? Some kind of idea where the government's not what's ruling our lives. Well, they know we want that. We've wanted it for a long time. So I think the network state agenda is the perceived, the solution they've created to roll us into. Even though it's not libertarian, even though it's not about freedom, it's a trap. My point, though, is that I see that in so many factors like this, where you have this new, freedom-minded, not Google map. Well, guess what? Turns out it's controlled by Israel. And this is actually insane to me. So this is directly from their own, this is from Google, the google.com way. This is their terms of service, terms of use, ways.com. Down here, and this is this is what has caught everyone's attention: governing law and jurisdiction. Now, this is somewhat normal for places that operate, where they have basically, these are the laws that guide what we do. What's crazy about this is used anywhere. It's online, right? And so usually things like that are not, it's a map system that applies everywhere. It shouldn't be unique. The bottom line, it says governing law. It says these terms will be governed solely by the laws of the state of Israel, without giving effect to any conflicts of law principles. Now, we've talked about this so many times, the idea of what they openly discuss as the Israeli government in numerous contexts. This has to do with the West Bank, where they've openly and routinely argued that they can do whatever they want. The title is Justifying Land Grab. Israel says it's allowed to ignore international law anywhere it wants. And as it says, although the Knesset, this is direct, and this comes directly from their own legislation that you can read for yourself. Although the Knesset can legislate any place in the world, that's the starting part of that. Oh, they can they? The Israeli government can legislate anywhere it wants? Yes, they routinely stress that. Although it is entitled, it says, entitled to violate the sovereignty of foreign countries through legislation. They believe that, guys. You know why? Because your government lets them do that. That would be applied to events occurring in their territories. Although it is within the authority of the government of Israel to annex any territory. Well, what actions have told them they can't do that? Look around. Lebanon, Syria, Gaza. It's what the U.S. government allows. Although the Knesset may ignore directives of international law in any area it pleases, the where this goes is, so why can't we take West Bank if we can do all those things? And they all continue to push this. So going back to the idea, I find this to be alarming. They're basically just saying, look, we supersede everything. And that's not a secret. That is the supremacist mindset of the Zionist Israeli government that very much overlaps with the Jewish supremacist mindset of many of the Zionists. There is a very clear overlap, but it is not only Judaism that is a part of this. And there's plenty of Zionists who aren't Jews. There's plenty of Zionists who are Christians. There's plenty of people in the Israeli government, or rather Israeli country, who are Orthodox Jews and otherwise who don't believe in Zionism. Always going to point that out. But the point is that this is a clear connection to that extremist ideology. But overall, you're talking about something else that connects back to an Israeli intelligence technology, in my opinion, anything right now that's tapped into by these groups is spying on you. And it shouldn't even only about Israel. I would say the same thing about the U.S. government, by the way. And historically, I would be right. But what Israel is doing is far more alarming to me right now in a larger sense. So that's worth considering in the surveillance tech side of things, that this is being discovered. Here's a clip if you want to watch more about it. Also, just to casually include this article from 2010 entitled Netanyahu, America is a thing you can move very easily. How many times we've covered this, or the clips of Netanyahu speaking with his family going, oh, we can easily manipulate the left and right, against each other and control the United States. Who cares though, right? Because it's just not like everyone knows that, and our government doesn't care that we know it. So let's just pretend it's not there. The truth is, guys, this is relevant today. What the Israeli government is doing shows you they truly believe that. It's very easy to manipulate the U.S. government. They believe that. So speaking of that, this is something I want to think about. This is just a note for myself that I want to get into the conversation about Charlie Kirk really quickly, not in depth for many reasons because of what I wrote here. And so this is just my thought on this. Just a general thing. And what I truly think is, what's the best way to put this? I guess I think right now we're dealing with a kind of new form of obfuscation is probably the best way to put it. No, I mean, who's to say even new, but ultimately something that I think is repetitively happening. Now, you tell me what you think. What I think we're dealing with right now, and it ties into what I think, is that ultimately people are, for whatever reason, waking up to some kind of the larger manipulations that we are bound by. Two-party delusion, government, which are challenging these classic ideas. And so I think that's why we're being sort of guided into some new form of governance and new world order, whatever we're talking about. But so my point is as we awaken to these things, we're more skeptical and we're calling stuff out. And so what I keep seeing is an interesting deviation from what I've always been used to, which is essentially that what we get, like let's take Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson, or any number of examples that we've seen, Butler, or any number of things. They lie right to our faces. That's step one, right? They come out and they just bombastically lie, give you conflicting information. And this is all hypothetical. Who's to say if it's by design? Maybe they're just incompetent. But in this thread I'm laying out, it's kind of just a hypothetical as if this is by design. Where they lie to you in ways that are meant to be seen. Like clumsy, inconsistent, Cash says one thing, Trump says another, whatever it is. Just lie, but they stand by it. And then in the midst of that moment, there's just screaming partisan back and forth and confusing, and most people just kind of let it go. Now, they know that we see it, right? That's the point. They know that we see that it's a lie. They see the conversation. We're questioning this. We're calling out, why was this left here? Why is the extra bullet over here? Why did nobody clean this up? Just insane stuff that everyone can see. They want us to do that. That's what I believe. They want us to get pulled into this conversation, to get invested in it, and then go, why is nothing happening? Like, in a way, it makes you feel, in a way, you are helpless, ineffectual, because nobody's doing anything. They don't care what you think, and we're screaming about it. Nothing changes. Then, after, the artificial debate that carries on, mired in just nonstop partisan screaming and nonsense. So it becomes just kind of overwhelmingly stupid for many, because you have to weed through all of that to get to what might be the truth, right? So they lie to us. They want us to get engaged with it. They see it. They want us to have this debate, right? Then after a gap, they start to drip feed you the truth. Right? So now we go, oh, well, look, like, whether it's just in like the Charlie Kirk point of it, whether it's Candace Owens or anybody else going, look at this and look at this information, or the case or the trial going on. Well, wait a minute. Did he even actually confess? Like, wait, all of these things which are confirming our concerns are being dripped out. Now, here's where we're kind of in the flux of this point. But historically, take any one of these previous events. They drip out the information. Lahaina, East Palestine, whatever. And nothing happens. Right? Then in that moment, it gets buried in more partisan screaming. And nothing ever happens. So my point in saying all that is that we keep going through this cycle, and it's almost as if what they've created is this moment where if we feel vindicated after that weird kind of cycle of screaming by the truth dripping out, we go, well, we were right. We knew it. They lied and they're corrupt and it's over somehow. And they walk away scot-free. No one gets held accountable. No one gets arrested. And it maybe there's a fine or somebody gets thrown in jail briefly, but nothing really changes. And I feel like there's a cycle to this. So keeping that in mind, this possible idea, and I'll include the show we did, one of the few we did around the Charlie Kirk conversation. This was right when it happened on September 12th. Just was Israel involved with the Charlie Kirk death? And I absolutely believe that. And let's look at the facts. I'll also include Carrie's article, which I think is more relevant now where this goes. The Charlie Kirk hysteria as a blueprint for future political chaos. I think we're seeing that come up right now, kind of in the same point I was just making. But keeping what I said in mind, this is from the 9th. Accused Charlie Kirk assassin allegedly confessed in texts, apologized and described motive. Agents testify. It's a weird title, and it's almost like it's trying to like make sense of things people are questioning. But just to quickly go through this, because what I really want to stress on this is that I think we knew this from the very beginning that we were being lied to. I think it was clear what the evidence suggested, but it's difficult to get beyond that without honest engagement from authorities that have the resources to do it. And so ultimately, I think we kind of already know what's happening here. I have my opinions. I'm not saying it's proof, but at the end of the day, I don't find it fruitful to dive through the rabbit hole that's being created that deviates from the current conversation, especially since I feel like we've already generally accepted what I think the evidence points to. But that's not to say that nobody should care about it, because clearly I think we all have to care about what the actual truth is and that we can prove that. But they've created this weird situation where that's almost like we don't expect it anymore, other than the narrative. Like it's by design, I think. And it's all kind of abstract. I'm sure you can see that. But it's just the opinion here. And I think what reason I'm saying all this is that as we go through this, I feel like it's partly a trap to kind of fall into what will become a never-ending kind of Nair screaming partisan debate. But I'm going to point to some things I think are relevant, and I think it's important that if you find this relevant to keep researching it, just be cautious. That's what I'm saying about how this is, just like the earlier conversation. So first, as Candace rightly points out, which I find insane, she writes, you honestly can't make this up. Footage of Tyler Robinson turning himself into police does not exist. The footage simply does not exist anymore. Or maybe it never existed in the first place, you decide. And this is a local 2KUTV. 2 News investigates, discovers possible missing evidence in Charlie Kirk murder case. Okay, so this is a core point to this, as we were arguing from the very beginning. As like I kept saying, you got the morons in the conversation screaming about how it was a Democrat, or we know it was, and that was meant to lose you. I mean, it matters to a degree, but at that point, we didn't even know. And of course, we're assuming the person they claim is guilty. It's the official narrative. But anyway, the point is that I was skeptical of this, because at the end of the day, there was no evidence. You couldn't prove that was the case. And then it became that he confessed to the person he lived with, and then ultimately that his father turned him in, and that he admitted to them. And there's so many weird secondary points, and it came out kind of early that it maybe wasn't even true. But none of this was even really verified. Now that it comes back around, that we don't even have it on video, that he even confessed. Guys, there is so much to question about this. I mean, I just think we have to acknowledge that this is a manipulative conversation with the evidence we already know, with the weird actions I just recently covered yet again about how they acted immediately after the shooting. Nobody with a brain is going to look at the way that went and go, yeah, that all lines up. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're involved. There may be always something else that ends up being the case later that we look back and go, oh, okay, now that explains itself. But you can't look at it and go, yeah, that's exactly what should have happened. Neither with Butler or any of these conversations. You just got to stop lying to yourself for partisan reasons. The fact that we don't have the actual confession at this point screams there's something larger going on to me. Now, of course, what you get from the typical Glenn Beck and Jack Posobiec, just listening to the evidence that has come out, I don't know how Tyler Robinson isn't already pleading guilty. Oh, gee, I'm shocked. They both absolutely trust the official story and side with the government narrative. But we're fighting the deep state. Children. Okay, so here is Cernovich doing something similar. And again, my point of this is not to go through all the evidence. If you want to, it's out there. I think the reality of this is already clear that we're being lied to. And I find it impossible at this point to really parse most of this out. It will clear out, I'm sure, as at least what we can see. But here's the point on this. This weird narrative about his iron bone structure. I mean, we aren't this stupid. Of course, Cernovich points to this. I mean, what looks like what? Wikipedia? Smart. But it's, oh no, actually it might be a study. But in any case, that's irrelevant. The claim of what happened with Martin Luther King Jr. You know, that the reality that the government killed him, that was actually proven in a civil court case that Corbett's covered relentlessly, in a good way, like many times over the years, pointed this out. And we just don't act like we don't know that as they praise him every year. The U.S. government killed this person or was involved with his death. Martin Luther King Jr., Cernovich writes, shot with a 30-06, bullet lodged inside. No exit wound. Oh, okay. So see, guys, the current government narrative is totally legit, as evidenced by this other totally legit government narrative. You just kind of laugh at these people. Now, maybe he's right. My point, though, is that, first of all, or I guess many other points, I don't think I included it. Like, if you want to look around, there is tons. Like, even with the Butler thing and the shooting, you know, the ear, like, guys, there's so much evidence from actual experts in ballistics who will every which way tell you that's not even possible what you saw. He would have bruising or anything else. But in this case, the same thing. That the idea of that bullet not going through, I mean, you could see, like I'm saying, there's examples of people who are ballistic experts doing shooting displays and showing you what it looks like to that bullet shooting through a body. It blows it up. End of the day, it's willfully ignorant for people to pretend like this makes sense. Now, I'll admit anything is possible for any number of reasons. Because let's just say there's another data point we didn't know. Maybe something else changed. We're wrong on the bullet. I mean, who knows? But with what we have in front of us, that's just lazy. And basically saying, here's another narrative we know the government lied about, and that's why this lines up. These people are not on your side. Now, this gets into where I think it's mostly important for today. Shadow of Ezra post agent Brian Davis confirming what company was used to verify the text exchanges. You won't find this to be very surprising and should very much question whether those text exchanges are even real.
As part of the investigation, was a Cellbrite extraction performed on Mr. Twig's phone?
Yes, it was.
Did you personally review that extraction?
Yes, I have.
And according to that extraction, did Mr. Robinson and Mr. Twiggs exchange text messages on September 10th through 11th, 2025?
Yes, they did.
What time was that first text sent according to the Cellbrite extraction?
The first text was September 10th at 11 p.m.
Well, Cellbrite is a obvious Israeli intelligence connected app. We've talked about this a lot. And what I find very interesting about this, to come back to this point really quickly, is this is what the the Fox News article is saying. This is what they're referring to. Accused Charlie Kirk assassin allegedly confessed in texts. So wait, but I thought we said it was a video and that he did it on video and that the father, and wait a minute, like all this is getting all spun out. Surprise, surprise. And at the end of the day, the point is that is the core and that's what they're using to rationalize that he confessed. So again, who knows? Maybe. But as Mel writes, and you should very much be considering, why would the Utah Special Bureau Investigation hire a private Israeli company to conduct digital forensics on this text exchange when Utah is home to the largest computer forensics lab in all of the Western United States? Sure, you can think of some logical answers there. And when the state has a contract with the Digital Forensics Crime Lab in Utah Tech University. Well, maybe because the Israeli company had an interest in making this go a certain direction. That's the logical, that's what she's suggesting. That there is an Israeli connection to this, which many people are discussing. And I don't even need to go through it all again. The obvious nature of why Charlie Kirk became a major threat to the Israeli government narrative and the Zionist narrative in this country and the control of the U.S. government. And he started to see that Zionist problem and challenge the Iran conversation. Now he's not here anymore. I mean, that's his audience, Turning Point USA, which has basically been forced into some kind of pro-Israel Republican platform, despite most of them calling it out before that. On stage, Glenn Beck, the rest, bringing up USS Liberty. Like, they got a lot of pushback. The point, though, is that clearly he got moved out of the way, and this whole thing marched in line around the agenda that he was calling out. That's not hard to see, guys. So let's talk about Cellbrite. And we've covered this. This goes back to 2020. This is a show I did a long time ago. July 6th. Stanford says COVID death rate almost zero for those under 40. Israeli pre-crime used on Americans. That's Cellbrite. Now, we covered this in multiple cases. The main point here was about the Israeli Cellbrite. Oh, actually, I think I forgot I grabbed it. Yeah, so this is somebody I used to follow on, I think it was Hive, I think. In any case, Viva Rapid, June 6th, 2020. Cellbrite can hack any device with UFED extraction technology, WikiLeaks archive, which is what he's highlighting. The bottom line here, guys, is this is used to spy on Americans and set up cases for why people were about to commit crimes. And this is exactly what we're seeing today. Now, that's assuming it's even legitimate and not being used to actually insert information or cover up information. Either way, it's a directly tied to Israeli intelligence company. This is from 2016. Goes back even further to Trump's administration, or technically I think it was just before it. FBI's outside party. The point, first of all, or I guess secondarily, is that it goes through all of these people. It goes it goes back a long way. Most certainly between Biden and Trump, but it's not unique to left and right. It's not unique to either of them. I just want to make it clear this has been used consistently through all of them. FBI's outside party, and we remember this conversation, revealed as Bureau angles to keep new hacks secret. So remember that whole thing about the FBI and the Apple phone and San Bernardino? Probably set up just to cause all of this. Guess what group it was, which looking back, I don't think I recognized what it was at the time. It was Cellbrite, guys. It was Cellbrite. The FBI wants to classify its new alternate method of unlocking the suspect San Bernardino shooter's phone, which in and of itself was a very clearly psychological operation dynamic. Oh, look, his passport's right there on the table. Keeping it secret even from Apple itself. Actually, I can grab this one for you real quick. Come on. That's crazy. Oh, it's the one word. What was it again? I'm just going to copy it. I think it's important to show this because this is one that we talked about in particular around sort of like the false flag conversation, but it was also around the FBI kind of manufacturing events. Was it this one? Shoot, maybe this one. But if I can't find it, I'll try to include it afterward. But it's an important conversation around kind of setting these things up. Yeah, I'm not sure which one it was. In any case, continuing on this. So to get into his phone, they needed to get in past the technology. And The Guardian confirmed with government officials on Wednesday back in 2016 that the technique does enable the FBI to get into his phone. And they wanted this to be secret. However, quote, the government has to be very cautious about when to use this method. Oh, right. They want you to pretend they're being cautious, which was provided by an outside party. They didn't want you to know. And it says, and that was their quote. And the Guardian's Danny Yadron writes, and according to additional reporting by Reuters on Wednesday, the outside party is Israeli software company called Cellbrite, which creates, among other things, a forensics system used by law enforcement, military, and intelligence that retrieves data hidden inside of mobile devices, not just locked behind a device, but hidden. As The Verge notes, Cellbrite's involvement in the case is not a total surprise. The company has a sole source contract with the FBI that it signed in 2013. See? Specifically to help the mobile forensics and data extraction, exactly the task presented by the San Bernardino case. Who cares about your constitutional rights, right, guys? They don't care. So I just think it's very interesting. It goes back to that case we all talked about, and now it seems very relevant. So these were the building stepping stones for this control grid that was already being put together. Here's the article from, was this The Verge? An Israeli company is reportedly helping the FBI crack the San Bernardino phone. Vietnam buying Israeli spyware to repress opposition. Cellbrite. That's what this is. This is from 2021. Israeli intelligence software Cellbrite is supplying Vietnam digital surveillance tools, which it has used to quash opposition, according to Haaretz. Yeah, so like illegally, guys, like literally using this to quash the opposition. That like this is what corrupt governments do. The very things they claim they fight over for free elections, as they are the ones actually doing this. U.S., Israel. Now here is Derek's article from 2024, as we've pointed to many times. Meet the spyware companies preparing to unleash their tech during Trump's second term. Too bad we didn't do anything about it. We could have. Too late now, it looks like. Cellbrite, along with the others we've discussed, Bold End, NSO Group, Pegasus, Clearview AI. The point is, Cellbrite is another Israeli firm which signed a contract with ICE worth $9.6 million for forensic equipment and services. Cellbrite is known for its ability to exploit vulnerabilities in cell phones, both iOS and Android. The company has worked with the FBI, the London Metropolitan Police Service, and the Russian government. Cellbrite told Forbes the company's new contract was with Homeland Security Investigations, a law enforcement agency with DHS. It just keeps getting worse and worse with a different justification every day, doesn't it? This is from 2019. ICE notice of intent to award contract to Cellbrite for smartphone hacking technology. Now, June 24th, 2026. Recently, public records show FBI secretly extracted data from ICE protesters' phones. Can you guess what that technology was? Yes, it was Cellbrite. So now we're talking about another example where all the way to today, ICE and the FBI are all using this to illegally take information from your phones, violating your constitutional rights, and in many cases, people who were not breaking the law, protesters, people who were there legally, and because they wanted to find a reason to go after them. That's what they were doing, guys. They're abusing their power to abuse American rights. It's just, and using Israeli intelligence technology that's spying on you all the time anyway. This is what I'm trying to highlight, people. This is what we're dealing with. This is not new. Your government's doing all of this. Now, at the same time, Libertarian Party posts this, me realizing nearly everyone on the Epstein list is free, but I have to go to court for a traffic ticket. Yeah, Americans are getting frustrated, guys. People in the world are getting frustrated. Because as it gets more authoritarian and more dystopian, it becomes easier and easier to be able to acknowledge it. But the point is, yeah, the Epstein files, that's not going away, but this administration desperately wants you to pretend it doesn't matter, even though most of their own people absolutely believe it matters. Now, on top of that, these are just a couple more examples of things showing you this administration in particular is not on your side, no more or less than the last one. But the point is, people somehow think this one's fighting for them. Tony writes, Obamacare premium is projected to rise 14% in 2027. Thomas Massey writes, might as well call it Trump care now. Our party, the Republican Party, has made no serious effort to repeal Obamacare and legalize affordable health insurance after taking control of the House, Senate, and White House. Why? Because, and now, whatever you think about what should happen, the point is he disagrees with this, and they've all argued they want to fight Obamacare, right? Well, now they don't really. Why? Because the current system enriches insurance and hospital companies. So as always, whether it's FISA, whether it's, I mean, you go down the list, guys, they'll go bad vaccine, bad food dyes, bad glyphosate, oh, bad, yeah, we don't want to, and then do all of it, and then support all of it, and then literally argue why FISA saves lives, and Democrats are trying to stop it. Like, that's how dumb they think we are, guys. The reality is they don't care about anything they try to sell you on. They didn't want Ron Paul to be part of their administration. They didn't want Thomas Massey to be part of the administration. They wanted to let you think they wanted that to make you think you cared about their ideas. In this case, Obamacare was just a talking point, guys. Now they're using it or they're not stopping it because it benefits them. That's government for you. Here's John Rich. It's funny, and don't forget, by the way, he's like some kind of land appointee dealing with like a land bureau. I forget the name of the group, but he's an official, advisor to the U.S. government at this point, or he's about to be, which is not a meritocracy. I said it last time. It's some weird form of like of nepotism, even though not family. There's probably a better word for it, but that's what we're dealing with. It's like political nepotism. It's like, just any you agree with me, then we're going to give you power. But it says, and it's not unique to left and right. It's funny, he writes, once the globalists realized we weren't afraid of hantavirus, it just disappeared. And I said, so you're saying Trump and RFK are globalists? I happen to agree, but surprised to see you say that. It's not what he means. The point was, guys, do you know who was starting this and who got called out by a lot of us? RFK Jr., Donald Trump, faced backlash after Hantavirus PrEP Act declaration, or pushing vaccines, or pushing flu vaccine mandates, or, everything they claim they're fighting. But John Rich is either too much of a coward or too blind to actually call it out. But I agree. They are globalists. It's hilarious to me. It's like not calling out the flock point. So if you're going to call out that the hantavirus stopped and globalists, then why aren't you acknowledging the people who were pushing the fear and using the PrEP Act to actually, it's exactly what happened under Biden. And the point about somebody was just telling me, I forget who that was, that he's the new Fauci, RFK's the new Fauci. He's already doing plenty of things that are in line with exactly the kind of directions that we were seeing before. They're not, and whether he's being forced to or not is irrelevant to me at this point. He's not calling it out is the point right now. They'll passively point to it and then try to hide from it. But here's the point on top of that. As we showed you before, military reserves course reverses course, and again, mandates flu shots for most military and civilian personnel. So they lied. They wanted you to think they weren't going to do it. Then they put it back. I said, can this please be the last straw for those remaining few who are still hoping or pretending this administration is anything different from all those before it? You mean, does John Rich not know that, or does he not care? Or anybody else? Like, how you can die on this hill and have them reverse course and people will still blindly support them. Not anybody honest, in my opinion. Here's another example. House Republicans' account comes out and goes, the right to keep and bear arms is not up for negotiation. Oh, you're so brave. Free speech we care about. No, you can't say that. It's like, you guys don't care. You're just yelling out what you think people want to hear. These are token talking points. Like, you guys are pathetic. And of course, even Twitter goes, this account, the House Republicans account, previously posted strong Second Amendment support, similar to this post, yet HR 645 remains stalled in committee, which is something they wanted, while they lean into legislation that's not in the interest of the Second Amendment. Not a secret, guys. Twitter can call it out. People can see it. And Steve says, why haven't you passed Massey's National Constitutional Carry Act then? Because they don't care about these things. They feign caring about things they know we care about. Now, we should question Massey too, but he has been consistently doing things that I think are in line with what he says he believes in. But this is not a new talking point. Derek wrote this in 2025. Gun rights groups condemned Trump's DOJ for defending National Firearms Act. Many of them, like directly, Gun Owners of America came out and aggressively called out the Donald Trump Justice Department, supporting gun registration under the necessary, proper, and commerce clauses. And this is the main one. After months of waiting, the U.S. Justice Department submitted its brief. Unfortunately, Bondi defends the NFA and uses some of the worst of the gun control lobby's talking points. So it's not new. They don't care about what you think they do if you believe in these people, guys. So moving this into some Iran conversation to finish this up, because think about this in the context, even though it's not explicitly related to, the larger surveillance conversation and what these new things, the new kind of shifts in the global discussion are doing. Trump says, and this is to start, first of all, we'll get into some of the debate, what was said and what wasn't said. Trump says on the 8th, and this is link sharing, do you think he actually believes his own lies? He says, the Iran war has been a tremendous military success. The oil prices are lower than when I started. And Twitter goes, nope, not correct. So how many times can this happen? On any number of things where Trump or any of them, any side of anything, but right now, Hegseth, Kash Patel, well, they'll come out and sells you big narrative. And then even Twitter, for whatever reason, simply goes, not true. Crude was trading at 67 before the war began in February. It's currently at, I think, 71 right now. So see, he's lying to you, or he's being misled by the clowns around him. It doesn't really matter to me at this point. So he lied to you on the 8th. I just think it's important. We're still in the midst of this deceptive, childishly, I don't know what you would call it, whether it's lying or that he's being deceived. Again, it kind of doesn't matter for the real point, but overall, it's just become a cartoon, guys. It is really embarrassing. Even for people like us that call this out, it's embarrassing. So let's get into this a little bit deeper, but I want to start with that and a few other points. Trump says the U.S. Space Force has cameras in orbit capable of reading the badges of Iranian officials as they enter nuclear sites, which he's right, at least as I understand it, which of course we could always be a lie, but that's what we discussed this in 2024 about the statement that the NRO made, which was literally that you can't hide because you're constantly being looked at using Elon Musk's satellite setup everywhere. Even saying that you have, camouflage. I just played it deeper the other day, saying that, look, even beyond camouflage, like we are finding ways around anything, no matter where you are. Okay. Take that for what you will. It could be a lie, but it seems to be what the technology is building towards. So the point is he's pointing to that. Trump's saying, we know, like he's trying to use that to make the argument or make you assume that he knows for sure that he's correct in what he's saying because of this, right? Well, this is typical stupidity by this administration because, as Middle East Observer rightly points out, well, apparently this is how they directly targeted 160 schoolgirls in Iran. Okay, yeah, with precision. So if you're going to tell us that you have the ability to look at the name tags on the people in these facilities, then you sure as hell knew that you were bombing that children's school. And they did, guys, whether Israel made it happen or they did it. Hegseth got caught using the bombing map that showed you it was right inside one of the bombing areas. They just hide from it. Isn't that just like the most grotesque thing in all of this? That they're either monsters enough to target girls' schools, or they know they did it and are too much of a coward to own up to it. Either way, they're still working with the U.S. or the Israeli government that allows all this to happen or is playing a part in what they're jointly doing. Now, kind of starting with this for the larger conversation, I want to reiterate this, June 25th, but this has been happening repeatedly. And it's so irritatingly obvious to prove. As Mint Press News highlights, a vessel near the Strait of Hormuz was struck following the warnings on audio you could listen to from the Iranian government. Now, best I can tell, as of right now, they've had numerous examples, and this is from the 25th, let's just say to today, where you've had ships, despite, as we're going to get into early, the actual memorandum, what it literally says, where they know they're supposed to be going along the route that Iran has been allowed to do as according to the memorandum, and yet they don't. Maybe that's because they don't care and they're stupid and they're, I don't know, or maybe I think Israel or Trump's administration, excuse me, hiccups all of a sudden, are telling them to challenge those routes, whether because they want the spin out or because they wanted to try to make it look like they're winning. I mean, who knows? The bottom line is, best I can tell, these ships have gone up against and deliberately violating the memorandum that Trump signed and going against the route they've agreed to. And then they get fired on, not bombed and attacked, fired on as a deterrent, and they leave. No one is killed. The ships aren't sunk. Nothing is stolen. Now, unless I'm missing something, that seems to be every time. So how are we framing this as anything other than an obvious act of restraint to push them back from an illegal route they're not supposed to be taking, even according to what Trump signed in the memorandum? That's very obviously what keeps happening. Now, to get into this, it's important to understand that this happened a series of times on, I think, the 7th and the 8th, and then Trump used that to attack them. That's how this started again. I mean, there's no debating that, guys. The argument is, well, you bombed those ships, so we had to respond. Well, let's get into that because it's easy to prove. The U.S. hits dozens of Iranian targets in retaliatory strikes after ship attacks in Strait of Hormuz. Even CBS and mainstream media says the earlier Iranian strikes were on tanker strikes. Not strikes, the deterrent, I guess strikes would be appropriate, but the way they're framing it there is to make it sound like they're bombing strikes in response, like they struck first and the U.S. responded. That's the U.S. narrative. This is even the adversarial media. Understand that. They're not really. But the point is that they shot at those ships to turn them around. They didn't sink the ships, as far as I can tell. They were on tankers trying to transit the strait via a route Iran has warned ships against using. Okay. So let's even say it's not the valid way. You publicly know that Iran said, don't use that route or we're going to shoot. And you do anyway? That's so obviously deliberate, guys. That's being made to happen. So the Treasury Department on Tuesday revoked the waiver allowing Iran to sell oil. Okay, so that's a violation of the memorandum. But they're saying it's in response to their violation. Okay, so let's be intelligent about this and look through the evidence. Oh, and then this is the Kabisi letter says that Iran has suspended talks on a final settlement with the United States. Let's come back to that. Because what's funny about that is that's on the 8th in the morning. And then what do you get? You get Trump going, we're done with the ceasefire after they said it first. Like you have to laugh at the insecurity of this man. He has to be the one. I'm the one that says it's over. No more deal, even though Ron just said we're done. And you You can consistently prove this looking back. That's what I keep laughing about. But here's the memorandum. Now, look, this is a very obvious, this document has been upheld by Trump's administration. Trump literally signed it, and you can see the signed documentation. I've shared it myself. Like, one of the reasons it's been shared is because you literally can see his signature right next to the one that discusses the money. But here's the point, guys. The number one part of the memorandum. Now, again, to understand this, if you don't know the conversation, this was simply a memorandum. They're not bound by law. This is a statement of acknowledgement for what will maybe lead to an agreement. So there's not like some legal consequence, but either way, they made an agreement that they wouldn't do these things in the hope that they would get to some kind of larger ceasefire. So in the midst of this, what did we have? The U.S. continually creating justification to claim Iran violated it. Let's go through it. Number one, declare the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including Lebanon. Never happened. Not once. Not even Trump denies that. And on top of that, Israeli media continues to report that Trump told Netanyahu he didn't have to follow that right up until recently. Now, of course, they could be lying. Netanyahu could be lying to them, but either way, that's what they're claiming. So my point is that if Israel never stopped, they never did. They, in fact, proudly said they're not bound by this and they will keep going, even though Iran said in this meeting and the U.S. agreed that Israel's absolutely a part of this. And as it says, all fronts. So never once has the U.S. been in compliance or Israel with this memorandum. So that's the first point. You can't deny that. So which means in anybody's minds, the thing was never actually met. But even though that happened, Iran continued to maintain it. Why? Because they still benefit from it. So it says and also in number one, to refrain from the threat or use of force. Well, Trump has been threatening them every other day since this started. So he's also violating that. Still doesn't matter. Iran still complied with what it was doing. Number two, refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs. Well, come on. It's obviously not happening. There's no examples of Iran doing that, as much as they love to freak out and claim that. I don't see any evidence of that. Wouldn't surprise me. But what you can clearly continue to show is the U.S. actively doing things to manipulate this country. Number five, upon signing the memorandum, the Islamic Republic of Iran will make arrangements, this is the important one, using its best efforts for the safe passage of commercial vessels. The Islamic Republic of Iran will conduct dialogue with the Sultanate of Oman to define the future administration and maritime services in the Strait. Trump signed this document. So the two things that shows you, and you could always debate whether it's absolute. The point is that you allowed Iran to make their arrangements to create safe passage. So then if you're telling ships to not follow that route, then you're creating the context for the violation of the memorandum. And for them to stop them is in line with what anybody else would do in a waterway controlled by any other dynamic. And so the point on top of that is you're then in the memorandum, allow them to make agreements with Oman to set up the future administration of the Strait. And now you have to see how willfully dishonest the whole thing is. As far as I can tell, Iran has not once violated this outside of them pointing to something they did in response to what they drove into reality, or violating the memorandum by going through a wrong direction and they fire on them. The only argument I would make is about whether or not tolls were effectively taken in a larger context. The debate is whether there was some kind of agreement, let's say, with a Chinese ship, and whether that's a massive toll applied to everybody or their personal agreements with groups they're allied with. It's a fair point. But you could argue that they had some, again, the point of the toll was about no tolls in the Strait. As far as I could tell, there's not some deliberate toll for everyone going through. So you could decide on that point. But as I said, either way, they never once complied with this from the start because of Lebanon, because of threats. Number six, at least $300 billion for reconstruction. Despite Trump continually lying about that or trying to sidestep what it means. Also, it says the United States government, the United States of America undertakes to terminate all types of sanctions. Well, they reinitiated sanctions, so that's also a violation. Number 11, the United States of America undertakes to make fully available for use the frozen or restricted funds for Iran upon the implementation of the memorandum. Now, from what I can see, I think it's proven that they've sent at least $3 billion, which is insane when you think about it. Trump was just again, and what he called the JCPO, whatever he said. The fact that he doesn't even know what it's called, and that he's clumsily talking about Obama's deal, even though it's what he's dealing with is way where it's embarrassing. I think he called it the JCOPA or something stupid like that, or POC. That's embarrassing, guys. He's the president of the United States and he barely knows what he's talking about. But the bottom line is that they've already did this, and that's why he's trying to kind of talk about the money and the plane. It was a beautiful plane, and all this money came pouring out. Not even close to what actually happened, and it was their money, as everyone with the brain knows that they stole, just like's happening right here. Frozen or unrestricted funds that they took from them, and yet he still lies about it. Probably because he doesn't even know he's wrong at this point. I'm starting to get the sense that he's just that embarrassing. But keeping this in mind, Ron Yakolich says the U.S. bombed 90 targets on the 8th to the 9th. 90 targets. Iran is reporting 14 killed with 78 injured since U.S. strikes restarted on Wednesday. We'll get into what they bombed. I mean, actually, I don't want to get into in depth because even now these things are hard to prove and define. They murdered people. They bombed civilian locations. They bombed civilian infrastructure, and Trump even publicly threatened. But I believe it was Israel that carried it out. Trump seems to think that he can bully Iran into relinquishing control of the strait that he, by the way, signed them allowing to have control over with the same failed and criminal strategy as 3 months ago. If it didn't work then, it's not going to work now. The only thing this will accomplish is dragging out pain to the global economy while spreading further death and destruction across the region. I agree. $10 says Israel did this. I believe he's right. That's Dan McAdams saying that. The Hormuz letter says breaking, the United States has begun striking bridges, hitting Aktaqan Bridge and the Golestan province of northern Iran and the Gorgan railway line per Fars. This is the deepest U.S. strike in Iran since March. And yet again, ladies and gentlemen, I say this every time. I mean, think about how insane it is that we're talking about U.S. government striking directly in the heart of Iran and now even striking civilian infrastructure. And you're telling us the monster terrorist maniac government Iran has not once bombed back inside of the United States? Thank God. I mean, think about that, guys. Like, there's no, from a legal perspective, they have the right to bomb the person bombing them, but they haven't. I mean, not only does it show restraint, it shows you the awareness. Like, I mean, I could put my own thoughts on what I think their mindset is, but that's restraint, guys. That's choosing not to take it to another level because you know that will cause this to spin out to a degree that will bet. And of course, you could argue that's because they're afraid. They're winning this. They're literally winning in this entire dynamic. They've gained the entire time. And it's obvious that the U.S. and Israel are lying about what they're accomplishing. So why in the world? I think it's obvious. You can decide for yourself. But the point is not even about whether they're like, okay, if you're going to argue that they're making decisions based on rational interest, then wait a minute. I thought you were telling me they were irrational monster terrorists that can't even think outside of their evil agenda and their willingness to kill Jews. Right? See, pick one, guys. It's got clearly they're being rational and showing restraint. So what I'm highlighting is if they're the evil terrorist monsters, then why wouldn't they have taken the excuse because they don't care about their people, right, guys? Right, Trump? They just kill everybody. Then why wouldn't they be attacking everywhere? It's obvious to see that they're not who they say they are. Doesn't mean good versus bad, but it easily means they're lying about what Iran's government is. And then they strike civilian infrastructure in a flagrant war crime. I believe it was Israel. Kabisi letter, Iran has suspended talks on a final settlement with the United States. Now, this is what happened. So they're in the midst of these ongoing, Iran said, we're done talking to them. And that's when you got Trump following up, acting like he was the one canceling everything. Iran warns Israel will face retaliation for attacks on Iranian infrastructure. So Iran believes it was Israel. And they're calling out Israel for the targeting of those things. But Trump publicly said like 2 days ago that we may have to bomb, I think I've got it in here, civilian infrastructure again. I don't know why that doesn't hurt him. There's no world in which that's justified, guys. That's an illegal act in everybody's minds and just let it go. Oh, well, it's a bargaining tactic. Clearly not. They just bombed him, guys. Here are a bunch of fishing boats that they bombed, claiming they were IRGC speedboats. Well, nope, just a bunch of fishing boats they bombed in the harbor because they are just belligerent, it seems. Ghalibaf on the 8th came out and said, America still hasn't learned that bullying and breaking promises are no longer cost-free. Let me put that plainly. If you strike, you'll get hit. And guess what? It's my point, guys. You can time this out. Then you get Trump coming out going, you hit, we'll hit twice as hard. He's in a game of social media and he's on the moon. It's like as if he doesn't even know what's happening. Like it's embarrassing. This is not some narrative tit for tat. You're losing in every real sense you can monitor, or you can put metrics for right now. Don't flail around pointlessly, or you'll sink even deeper. The Strait of Hormuz will only open with Iranian arrangements, not American threats. And by the way, the arrangements that Trump already agreed to. So the point he's saying, or my point there is that this comes out and then he responds as if he's the one making the threat. And it just shows weakness. At the very least, an insecurity that he's the one not in control. Iranian Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf warned Washington after 2 days of renewed strikes that America hasn't learned its lesson. And it says Ghalibaf, one of Iran's 2 lead negotiators, spoke as the memorandum neared collapse after Iran strikes on 3 tankers that defied its designated routes. The U.S. hit more than 80 targets, revoked oil sanctions waivers, and moved Tehran calls a blatant violation of the deal, which it obviously is, and struck again Wednesday, and Iran targeted U.S. bases in Bahrain and Kuwait, 2 groups that have continually given support and refueling and bases to the U.S. and Israel. So it's not some kind of crime to attack the belligerents that are engaged in attacking them in an illegal war, just not started on illegal aggression. Now, this is about, this was the same about the locations, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait. Glenn says, from the start of the U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran, Gulf state tyrannies, the U.S. calls our allies, have been pummeled hard by Iran, including U.S. assets there, many major bases, billions of dollars. But because these dictatorships punish anyone reporting it, most Americans never hear of it. Unless Trump screams that they just committed war crimes by attacking people, bombing them, because that's not stupid at all. But Marwa Osman points out the U.S. has 800 military bases across 80 countries. Do you know how many the next country, the next highest country has? 145 across 42 countries. And you know what that is? The UK. 880 bases compared to 145 is the second amount, highest amount. So no, these military bases right here. U.S. bases on high alert for attack by Iran. Always the threat. Oh my God, Iran will terrorists attack us. These military bases are not to protect Americans. They are there to dominate the world through military power. Does anybody not know that at this point? If a military base on a territory of one of 80 countries hosting U.S. forces is used to launch attacks against a sovereign state, it is entirely foreseeable that the targeted state will view that base as legitimate military target. That's not even debatable. It literally is by every metric, every point of international law. You bomb them, they can respond. The people of countries hosting such bases should be asking why their governments allowed that territory to be used, right? So then they get bombed. It's what Israel does to the United States. Accountability begins with those who initiated and facilitated the attacks, not with those who retaliated. Watching some Arab governments and citizens condemn Iran for striking military installations that were clearly used to launch attacks against is remarkable. It is. It's embarrassing, but it's an agenda. Okay. So on the 9th, this is how embarrassing this gets, guys. I mean, it really is this stupid. Here's what Trump said after all that we just went through. And after all the screaming claims he made about how they were going to, wipe them off the map again, bomb civilian infrastructure again. All right. And they bomb back and forth. Iran responds and the U.S. kills innocent people like they do every single time. Israel bombs civilian infrastructure. And this is what he says the next day.
Many ways we can win, but we've already won militarily. They have very little left, and they want to make a deal so badly. They called a little while ago. They want to make a deal so badly. I just don't know if they're worthy of making a deal. I don't know that they're going to honor the deal. That's
right. If they want to make a deal, why do you think they attacked commercial vessels?
Because
you know how stupid the corporate media is. Is that what happened? Or can you verifiably point to the fact that you on the record, Ron is going, turn around. This is not the appropriate route. Even CBS News can write because they went the wrong route. It's just stupid. It's stupid. Who knows if that's some kind of Fox News reporter giving him the lob he wants. Sad.
They're sort of crazy, to be honest.
Crazy.
They're sort of crazy.
Yeah.
They're a little bit out of control, but they want to make a deal.
God, I don't even know how to describe how revolting it is almost. Who respects this person? And the worse this gets, the more people want to pretend it's about you just hate him because you're a derangement or whatever. It's like, come on. This is a special kind of dictatorial stupidity. But Biden was a senile stupidity dictator. It's a different flavor, but equally alarming because it's just government. It's authoritarian control over your lives. But this man, I just don't understand why anybody takes him seriously at this point with what he continues to say. Listen to this again.
But we've we've already won militarily.
Won militarily. Let's just explain that. I don't even need to debate this because I don't even think even his supporters pretend that's even real. Oh, it's a tactic to get them in position. But we all know it's a lie, though, right? We know it's a lie because it's not true, because we keep seeing their ships control the strait. We keep seeing them. What are we lying about? I mean, the reality is, as Robert showed you way back when, they made these tunnels in the mountains for underwater canals where they put their ships, knowing this was coming, and now continue to show you that, or any number of examples. But if you won militarily, then why are you still bombing them? Why just take over? So you're telling me you're wasting billions in munitions because you won already? I mean, you know, you have to laugh at anybody that takes this face value, and that is most of the corporate media. That's sad.
They have very little left, and they want to make it.
Jaw thing, he does very little. You know, it's like, it's weird. It's like his weird like tick when he's making things up.
Deal so badly, they called.
Oh, they called. They won't. Please, Trump, we'll make a deal. How does that make sense with anything you've seen? Anything? Well, okay, so you bombed them, and now they're scared to make a deal. Well, why didn't they do it the last time, or the time before, or the time before, or the 13 times before that? As we'll get into next, Iran laughed when he said this. They laughed. They said, "That's ridiculous. You were such a clown." You know, it's like, let's make another Lego video about how dumb these people are. That's what's happening right now.
A little while ago, they want to make a deal so badly.
Oh, man.
I just don't know if they're worthy of making a deal. I don't.
Yeah, maybe they're not even worth it. Then what are we doing? So explain that point to me with anything else that's happening. Maybe it's not even worth it. I'm just going to not even make a deal. Then what are you going to do? You going to stop? You going to give up? Or are you going to just bomb and fight and invade? At what point does this align with what Americans even want or care about? Donald Trump? Oh, he's just saying that to make Iran. Whatever. It doesn't even matter anymore. It's just nonsensical spin. He is lying to you. Or, you know, narrative, you know, whatever I just say, you know, using it as a tactic, fight, lies. I'm still lying to you. He's making things up, whether it's to trick Iran. It's about you, guys. He's lying to you. Iran doesn't believe him. They literally say it every single time. He thinks you are that stupid. That's what's happening. That should insult you.
I know that they're going to honor the deal. That's the problem.
Aside from honoring it the entire time until you break it over and over and over. Again, it's not an opinion. That's not debatable. You can literally prove back to the beginning of this every time Trump has made a lie and every time Iran has followed through and every time that it's round and round and round. In the moment, like right now, it's certainly possible that Trump is saying that and it's true and that Iran just finally changed his mind. I say that every time. Tomorrow, the next day, we'll be able to look back and we'll be able to find out. And you know he's been lying to you. You can choose to look if you want.
If they want to make a deal, why do you think they attacked commercial vessels?
Because those vessels were violating the agreement that Trump signed. You moron. But here we are, you know? And it's like, I shouldn't even be that dismissive, but it's not even it's not worthy of respect. These people are ridiculous. They're not worthy of engaging with honesty. So can we all just admit out loud, I wrote, that literally everyone knows that Trump is lying here? And has been nearly every time before this when he used the exact same claim that was later proven to be false? I hope so, because the whole collective mass delusion thing is getting tiresome. So here is Saeed Mohammed Barandi. Reuters comes out and says Iran, and this is what kills me. They at least they write Trump says, but that's like Israel says. They won't report whatever Hamas says, do they? Or whatever Iran says, do they? So they just go, Iran has asked to continue talks, and U.S. agreed, Trump says. Like it's embarrassing, right? So at a time when Trump has been near consistently shown to be lying, you cite what he says. That's pretty stupid, but we know why. As Saeed Mohammed says, fake news, not true. We did not do that. Here's another fake news. Jennifer Jacobs, Iranian officials privately told Trump advisors that they made a mistake in shooting at commercial strait. They did not do that. That the attack stemmed from an errant sect of hardliners who are trying to undermine negotiations. My God, this is literally what Trump wants people to think. We're winning in the debate. The bad guys are winning out, and it's not what's happening. I mean, again, certainly possible. But if you look at the facts that we have in front of us, it's obviously not that. What seems to be the case is that that's completely made up to make it look like Trump didn't just spin out yet again. They shot those ships, shot at them because, and look, here's the thing. As we just showed you, if you have the audio of them, which other people do too, because it's maritime, they can have the reality of them going, turn around. You are going the wrong route. Over and over and over. We have the document where Trump signed that says that's their ability to do so. And then you're going to say the Iranian government comes out and goes, oops, we made a mistake. Why would they do that? That would then make the case that what they signed is not real. This is just deductive logic, guys. And so she's lying, or she's lying for them. It's pretty damn obvious. Of course, Mario Napol, the real big-time journalist, comes out and says the nuclear talks never stopped. A U.S. official confirms the negotiations continued straight through the strikes. Mario is a clown. And he says a U.S. official is what it's per CNN. And as Daniel writes, a U.S. official, this Zionist monster, Stephen Miller, he's kind of joking, but the point is, so one of these idiots speaks up and says, the lie that we want you to know. And Mario goes, the lie that he told me. U.S. official says, that's the same thing. They have been lying to your face nonstop, and you just cite what they say out loud in a topic that they've lied about more than I've ever seen. The reality is that this is so obviously not true. The reality is that they stopped based on the evidence we have in front of us. I just think it's sad that people continue to fall for this, and Mario either willfully lies to you or is just too bad at his job to care. This is from the 10th. Trump comes out and says, the Islamic Republic of Iran has asked us to continue talks, in quotes. Okay. We have agreed to do so, but the United States has stated to them in no uncertain terms, the ceasefire is over. There wasn't ever a ceasefire, guys. They've bombed them multiple times throughout this process, and they never complied with the memorandum. This is my point the entire time. It's always been a game of whether or not the U.S. would just eventually cave. Iran has been doing what they said they've been doing the entire time. Kabisi letter, Trump says Iran has asked to continue talks and has agreed to do so, but the U.S. has stated to them in no uncertain terms, ceasefire is over. So we're done, I guess, firing during the ceasefire. How do you even read that? So if the ceasefire is over, does that mean you're now going to not fire since you've been firing throughout the ceasefire? Yeah, good luck working that out. The point is they want you to pretend that Trump is tough. They want you to pretend that Trump just put his foot down and we're done with the thing that we were not doing in the first place because we beat him. Didn't you hear? We won 37 times already. Dropsite News reports Tehran has not asked the U.S. to resume peace talks. A senior Iranian official says. Now, of course, they could be lying. They say that Trump lied about what he just said. The official said any diplomatic engagement has come only from the mediator's insistence about the U.S. expressing a desire to create a path for Trump to withdraw from the war. Right? They're just admitting that Trump's team is going, please give us an out. We'll give you this. We'll give you that, please. And Trump keeps going back to the table over and over. And you can prove this. And on top of that, by the way, Dropsite News, Jeremy, has inside sources on this, which we should question, but has been consistently correct. As you can look back and see for yourself, go through their account and look at the things they've been saying about Iran. They've been near consistently correct. Why? Because they're just listening to what Iran is saying. And Trump keeps lying. It says Iran also warned it will not tolerate U.S. attempts to bypass its agreed monitoring mechanism in the Strait. So the point is they have been lying. Iran has been doing what it said it's going to do. The U.S. government has been lying and trying to look strong while trying to get what they want from it. And now they're saying, we did not ask to resume talks. Trump is lying. I'm shocked. Okay. So that's where we are at this point. That's today. Trump screaming, we're going to talk. Ceasefire's over. And I guess we're back to square. Well, guess what? The war is continuing because that's what Israel wants. J.D. Vance comes out and says, if you try to close the strait, the American military will respond. It's that simple. That's what they're doing. I already went through this. You already know. Even Robert Barnes calls them out. Vance's future just ended for at least the next half decade. I doubt that. But the point is, they didn't shut the strait. In fact, the ships were going through the strait at near to a high level, had been sent, almost to a normal level, I'd argue, according to information that I can't truly verify. My point, though, is that they were, and the ships that they sent deliberately, I think, to try to circumvent the route, or just who did it because they're stupid, is the only deviation. And then you bomb them because they did what they were supposed to do based on your signed agreement, and you say they closed the strait and that you acted because they closed the strait. You're just making up an entire story here. Vance is just the talking head they put out to make look stupid, apparently. I just think it's insane. We know that's not true. On the 8th, this is the point. Menjo sit right, look at how the Iran designated corridor is busy and safe. Wait a minute, didn't he just say they shut down the strait? Yeah, because he's an idiot. He's a liar, guys. You're shocked, I know. The strait they were functioning pretty highly. And it was their corridor. And then, boom, when they did this on the 10th, well, now it's shut down. at least shut down to the degree that Iran wants it to be because the U.S. is not adhering to the agreement. Now we're back, I argue, to the point to which they're letting through people that are not fighting them and stopping those that are, which makes sense to me. Traceable vessel transits through the U.S. corridor, coordinated Omani lane, have effectively ground to a halt. There you are. So Trump did this. There's no which way around this, guys. We were at a point where this was going back to normal, and now they've driven us right back into a state of war that will affect gas prices and crude oil and everything else. Fertilizer and the whole thing. Who knows? Maybe it very much is by design. We should be asking that. Of course, here's CENTCOM lying to you. Fact check. Iranian state media claims that transit through the Strait of Hormuz is only permitted through routes designated by Iran. You realize how stupid this is? Their statement that Trump signed allows them to dictate this. But it goes, truth. Iran does not control the strait since early May. Okay. You've helped facilitate successful transit of more than 800. Well, Dropside News says CENTCOM claims that they have helped facilitate the transit of 800 vessels carrying 380 million barrels of crude oil. Well, if that was accurate, true, that would be more than 11 commercial vessels at about 5.4 million barrels of oil every day. Does anybody believe that? That you're telling me, so at the times when we could prove via GPS, you absolute clowns, that nothing was happening, that you're going to tell us you've been doing 11 vessels a day the entire time? They're not. Guys are lying. They're literally just like Trump told you, 20 vessels they gifted us of oil. Golliboff was the guy. Nope, they lied about that right in the beginning. Lied about a lot of stuff, didn't they? Either way, the point is this is about them trying to pretend that they're in control and that, no, we're the ones. This post is literally saying we did the thing that we told them we did. We agreed to something and then we did what we wanted anyway. But then it turns out they didn't even actually do that. Talk about weakness. Like, why wouldn't you just agree? So you basically challenge the agreement, but then fail to do what you said. They're just ineffectual clowns. On top of that, the oil overlap, as Massey writes, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve was created to help our country during emergencies. But presidents use it to stabilize fuel prices globally. Not just for Americans, but globally. Trump has been doing it the entire time. I was saying that right in the beginning because oil is a global market, he says. If we use much more of it to mask the cost of war, which is what they're doing, he's using it to keep the prices down by manipulation, wasting your reserves. We risk collapsing the salt caverns that hold it. Look at this. And I mean, look at where we are right now. That's insane. Based on what I understand, we're very close to complete. I mean, this is what people were screaming about under Biden's administration. Now Republicans don't seem to want to talk about it. The reality here, guys, is that this is being done so Trump can pretend that what he's doing is lowering crude prices, yelling at gas companies to lower their prices as if that's not manipulating, total free market. At the end of the day, that is what he's been doing from the beginning. Sacrificing your safety for his appearance of winning as he loses. Weak. Exactly as we were discussing from the beginning. It's all a game to them, guys. They don't care about you. To these people, the ends absolutely justify the means. That is, of course, if we even see those ends, right? But that's the whole Machiavellian idea, the Napoleon quote. The ends never justify the means. The means are what matter, guys. How you get there always matters, unless you're a dictator, unless you're an autocrat, unless you're an oligarch, unless you're somebody who doesn't care about the rights of other people. Daniel McAdams cites what Brett Erickson says. And he adds, for decades of everybody gets a trophy mentality drilled into Americans since preschool, when suddenly faced with the hard consequences of terrible decisions and there is no one to back them up or extend the deadline for their homework, they throw a screaming tantrum and say, this isn't fair, and stomp out of the room. Sadly, as Brett writes, it's quite remarkable to watch seemingly intelligent people be angry about the Iranians using the strait as a defensive weapon and striking vessels transiting. Now, remember, even as he makes a good point, that's not what was happening, guys. They weren't just striking vessels. They were doing it to ships that were violating the transit route that they agreed to with Trump, that Trump signed. Regardless, though, he says, just a quick question. Even if they were just attacking ships that were coming through because Trump was illegally bombing their country, which isn't actually what's happening from Iran's side, but it says, just a quick question, why did Iran do those things? Well, I can answer that. It's because the ships violated the transit route, but if they did bomb randomly, why would they have done that? He says, if you answered because the United States launched an unprovoked war of aggression, congratulations, you'd be right. This isn't siding with the regime. It's not really a regime. It's just another government like all of them that we should be fighting, in my opinion. It's understanding the very obvious order of events that led to the strait being shut down. This is a guy who clearly doesn't side with the Iranian government, but he's just using logic here, which is that, well, they illegally bombed them for no reason, so maybe we shouldn't call them terrorists for defending themselves. Funny how that works out in the time where you're calling genocide defending yourself, huh? Now, to finish out in general, Iran hatched fresh plot to kill Trump. Israel told the U.S. Yeah, I can't even say that without laughing out loud. I mean, how insane this is. In the midst of all of this, when you've never seen more attention called out to what Israel's doing in the world, and especially in the United States, Israeli government speaks up and goes, Iran wants to kill. I mean, really? I mean, everyone kind of seemed to call this out. Israel recently shared new intelligence. I mean, think about what happened during the ongoing, Gaza genocide. All the times they came out with these absurd stories that were outright fabrications. But here, Israeli intelligence says that with the U.S. that it was showed Iran was considering a new plan to assassinate Trump. Why new plan? Because they actually argue that the ones before it were because Iran wanted to kill Trump. Which makes no sense when you actually look at what was going on before. It does for other things, though. It certainly does. But either way, who knows? Certainly possible that Iran was doing this, seeing as how they murdered their families, like literally the families of people that run that country, and literally murdered scientists and children and girls' schools and bridges and water infrastructure. But, God forbid they should want to fight back. Now, I'm not saying that it's justified to murder and assassinate a leader. What I'm pointing out is that it's you can understand why somebody might be driven there with what they've done. What I am pointing out, though, is Iran has not done that. Demonstrate where Iran has tried to murder the Pope. Demonstrate where Iran has tried to murder even sitting members of Congress or people in power. Not that I can see. They haven't even bombed inside the United States, thank God, which shows you obvious restraint. So what you do find, though, is Israel and the United States literally bombing anybody in as they can find, it seems. Bombing bridges and schools and hospitals and churches everywhere you look. I mean, just reflect on that for a second. I don't even need to explain anymore. So point being, certainly could be. But what many people argued was, what does that mean? Israel's going to kill him? I mean, that's what seems to be the talking point. But here, of course, here's what the Trump administration wants you to think. While battling against the ridiculous CNN platform that's talking, Iran, bad guy, and nuclear weapons, they're all just the cartoons of the sides that all want to go against Iran for Israel for a different reason, though. Either way, the point is, Scott Jennings wants you to believe that because Israel just saved our president, we know we can trust them. Watch.
You seem to know exactly who Donald Trump is talking to. How do you know that?
Well, just as an American watching it play out, it certainly feels as though
your weapon, because they can't do great military victory. A wild assertion. I just wonder what evidence of that there is.
As a tax-paying American, I sit there and I watch this stuff play out within minutes after the markets close. I watch before markets open.
So no evidence.
What he was saying was that Trump doesn't talk to generals. He only listens to, I mean, what's funny is, yes, fair point to say that he doesn't know that as a fact. But are you claiming otherwise? I mean, really, the point becomes you're saying that without knowing that for sure. But I think we can all acknowledge that Donald Trump is not on the inside to a lot of this stuff when it comes to his actions. Or you're actually going to tell us that he knows what's going on and that he says those stupid things anyway? That's pretty embarrassing. So either way you want to look at that. It's not the point today. The point is what he says next.
So here's what I think. I think we achieved a great military victory.
Oh, yeah, clearly. Starting off with a good note.
The Iranian military is devastated.
As they keep fighting and you're losing. Yeah.
I disagree with Max. I don't think they're currently on the brink of building a nuclear weapon because they can't be because of the military victory that we have achieved.
I didn't say they were on the brink of building a nuclear weapon.
You said we haven't made any progress.
I said we have not eradicated their nuclear program like Trump said. They have 1,000 pounds of highly enriched.
Fake debate. No, I didn't say that. They have all the things that we keep pointing to that aren't even actually valid. This is the same point. They've got 1,000 pounds of the. You mean the amount that the International Atomic Energy Agency already acknowledged was completely within their safeguard and their agreement? Yep, that same amount that CNN's either too dumb or too dishonest to even acknowledge is the reality. The point, though, is that what was going on right there is a fake debate about how you're the right one. No, you're the right one. You're both claiming Iran as a villain. You're both doing the same thing for Israel, whether you even realize it or not. So I think it's important to highlight that fake back and forth where the partisan team wants to pretend the other partisan team hates them when they all fight for the same things and I guess are too blind to see it. And I'm not talking about the majority, guys. I'm talking about the partisan team sport game. Back to the clip.
They still have it.
Yeah, and it's buried beneath a significant amount of rubble.
And then they can take it out of there when they want to.
Thanks to the United States military. So that's number one.
So people were killed to accomplish that. Did Americans want that? What do you mean, thanks to the U.S. military? For something that nobody wanted, that Trump said wouldn't happen, that you swore you wouldn't do? Well done, Scott.
Don't mischaracterize what I said,
After the military victory, they gave diplomacy a chance. And as the president said repeatedly, he always said, I would like to have a deal. I'm prepared for them to not behave, in which case they get nothing, and we have to go back to a military option, which is
what. God, is that even like a fraction of what we can even see happening? And you don't get pushback from CNN. Like, you know how much you could rip him apart if I was in this room, it would rip him down, like lay out the information. Like, how insane you could even say that. Here's 37 examples. You know, you go down. It's pathetic. Again, same point. But the point I want to get to is right here.
Where we are today. Where it ends, I don't know. There hasn't been as much volatility in the oil market the last couple of days as some people might have projected, which is a good thing. But I do think it's true that they are not interested in rational outcomes here. And this whole
Iran is what he's talking about. Despite them literally showing the most restraint out of anybody in the conversation, consistently standing, and is not fighting or siding with Iran, guys. It's an objective fact. And you can literally prove it for yourself if you're not blinded by partisan objectives. And he just lies to you. I mean, Scott is a very dishonest person.
Threat to assassinate our president, just say one of the true that they are not interested in rational outcomes here. And this whole threat to assassinate our president,
which is not even real as far as I can tell.
Just say one other thing for all the people out there who've been crapping on our relationship with Israel and what we do with Israel and our alliance with Israel. They gave us intelligence to help us keep our president from being assassinated. That's a good thing.
Oh, yeah, totally. Totally. Just because we're just going to blindly accept at face value that Israel was accurate or not making it up entirely or not the one threatening Trump in the same way. I mean, just, you know, however you read that. The idea that Israel said something, therefore now we can prove it right there. Israel said that, therefore they saved us, and therefore they're a good ally. What a lazy argument. I mean, even if it's the accurate point, if that's the best you can do, you've lost, guys. That's the point. They have lost. People see through that. I think you know that already. To everyone constantly criticizing our alliance with Israel, their intelligence just helped keep our president from being assassinated. I'd love to see even a shred of evidence about how that was even close to happening, let alone the past examples you've already lied about. Embarrassing. Now, Trump tells the New York Post after this claim that if Iran assassinates him, this is like the third time he said this, by the way, in previous iterations of the past. He says, I've left instructions to just literally bomb them at levels they've never seen before. The past one he said, was to destroy their civilization, or what was it? Basically, the point is, all that can mean is killing innocent people, guys. So you've left instructions to murder innocent people should you be killed? Yeah, no matter what you think about if it actually happens or not, it makes you a bad person. It makes you a child. Murder everybody if you take me out. That's what dictators do, guys. That's the Samson option. That's Trump's Samson option right there. I've been on their list for a long time. That's what they're dealing with. Their only thing is they've left instructions if anything happens. Oh, I guess that's, I don't know. Who knows if he believes it or not? It's just exhaustingly stupid, the whole thing. And of course, as Douglas McGregor says, White House preparing for a prolonged conflict with Iran. Oh yeah, remember that whole thing about 3 days, 2 weeks to flatten the curve? Iran will be in and out. They welcome us like heroes. Iraq war lies over and over again. Are we still pretending like this is just an extension, or did Democrats make this happen? Or what's the narrative in the partisanship? The reality is you got tricked into another war by the same government, left and right, that always does this, and you guys bought it if you're a team sport player. That we believe that he'll be in and out, and now he couldn't because they hamstrung, whatever. Whatever you fill in the blank with for why it didn't go the way he promised, it's always something. What did we say in the beginning? It won't be like that. It'll end up being a forever war that you promised wouldn't happen. No, because he's not the same. People will just lie themselves into anything. I don't believe that's even close to the majority right now, but it's worth pointing out. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Iran bombed ships going through the Strait. By the way, they did it, as we said, for restraint, or rather in deterrence for ships that were violating the agreement they made. Not even she can be honest about that, which matters to me. But it goes, so Trump bombs Iran, and oil prices start rising again. The stock market goes down, making buying opportunities ripe again. She's pointing out that there's a design to this, which we all see. Then Trump goes back to saying he bombed Iran because Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, as if that's even repeats it at least 60 times in the press today. She goes, I didn't realize Iran's nuclear program was in the Strait of Hormuz controlling oil. She makes a good point. Like, if all of it's centered around the Strait of Hormuz, what does it have to do with the nuclear conversation. But it goes, feels more like a post 9/11 Bush era Middle East war lies and war economy politics than any real concern about Iran having a nuclear weapon, much like Iraq having weapons of mass destruction. Literally what we voted to end from the Republican Party. I just don't feel like I can take her seriously. I hope she follows through and I hope she consistently stands by these things, but I feel like she's just playing the role. But here are the people that support Trump, the ones that he supports, the ones that she's had Loomer on his plane like 3 or 4 times. Literally, she's been cited with giving insight. Things that she said came out of Trump's mouth. Here's what she posted, guys, just to in case you didn't see the people, the kind of filth that are on the side of this agenda. She goes, finish the job, Trump. And this is, of course, when this post comes out. Oh, wow, Iran, bombing Iran. And that's infrastructure they're showing you right there. Literally civilian infrastructure. And it's Trump says, this is the in retribution for yesterday's bombings of ships. Oh, again, the ships that were being pushed back because they were violating the strait, the agreement that you signed, Trump. So the question is he too stupid to know that? Is he being lied to by Hegseth or whatever else? Or does he know what he's doing? Does he know he signed it and know he's lying and murder people anyway? You can decide. Loomer, of course, goes, finish the job, Trump. Purge your admin of the isolationists who tell you that Islam can be negotiated with, as if that's just Iran we're talking about. You can't negotiate with these animals. Gosh, she's disgusting. Now, you know what's crazy? I'm almost certain this says you can't negotiate with Muslims. And I believe she changed that. I could be wrong. That's why I pulled this aside, quite frankly. But I didn't take a screenshot, so I'll pretend like I could be wrong. But I'm telling you guys, on this platform, if you have inside connection, I've seen Elon Musk change his stuff with no notation. Anyway, the bottom line is these people are disgusting. And here is Mark Levin. Take down this building, he writes. It's an apartment building. You can easily look it up. And it has a banner that says, we will kill Trump. So I said, no matter the justification, if you are calling for the bombing of a civilian hotel, which is what this is, full of Iranians, because of opinions they've expressed, however insulting or threatening, you are an evil person. This may come as a shock, but when you murder their families, people get angry. I know it's crazy, right? Now, I'm not saying you have to agree with the sentiment or that anyone should, express the killing of Guys, your government is screaming about killing people. The bottom line is these are random people that Mullen or Levin wants you to just murder because they say, it shows you that just like with Gaza or Lebanon, they're fighting the peoples. They're fighting Palestinians. They're fighting Lebanese culture. They are fighting Iranians, not the governments. They hate these people. And it's undeniably clear at this point, as evidenced by their ethnic cleansing and genocide, but plenty of other things too. Of course, Donald Trump comes out now and says, they're liars, they're cheats, they're sick people. They've hurt their people. They've killed 54,000. Yeah, now it's 54,000. The lies. We went through that as it was happening and proved to you they were making this up. Proved to you who was being shot in the mass being flooded in as they admitted they funded people with arms and created even the Kurds, guys. They admitted to doing all this. But you know this if you watch this show. The point is these made up number. But what I'm highlighting is this now they're sick people and need to be hurt. Didn't you he did just say on the 16th. He's never cared about Iran regime change, claims new leaders are not radicalized. Literally discusses, no, they're good people. These people are good. They're not that bad. Very rational. He says, leadership is very rational, not radicalized. Wait a minute. The same people so why? Maybe because he thought he was going to get a deal. Who knows? So the people that were not radicalized, because we killed the bad ones, are now evil monsters. And we killed the first ones and now they're just as bad. Well, wait a minute. I thought in the beginning you said you killed 3 different groups. You killed 3 different people. And now the new people, we don't even know who's in charge. They're lying about literally everything. The same person's in charge that was right at the beginning. The son, the same one, the same leadership, the same government. This guy is just so desperate for a win. He wants you to think we already did regime change, right? But I thought you said regime change wasn't what the goal was. Now you're using that as a metric to say you won? That's pretty pathetic. More perfect union. The Defense Department from NBC News was funded with a budget of nearly $1 trillion, but it's already running out of cash, according to 3 U.S. officials. Sure sounds like it's working out well, guys. #winning. Here's just a Wall Street Journal article. To save money, maybe you should skip breakfast. Thanks, Empire. I mean, it's just beyond the pale, guys. Now, in case you didn't know, as of today, Israel's still attacking Lebanon. That matters because that's a violation of the agreement. So there's never been a moment where they didn't violate this. And as of right now, the alleged ceasefire, which is separate from this, even before this conversation, there was supposed to be an alleged ceasefire. Israel's been bombing the entire time, never stopped, as Craig Murray's been highlighting and anybody on the ground. As of today, they are continuing to target innocent people on motorcycles, bombing certain locations, burning fields down. It's what they do every time. This is the ongoing genocide. As Sarah Abdallah points out, Israel's burning forests and civilian homes in Lebanon, not military targets, houses, entire ecosystems, every time. Like by design, guys, this is what they do. We'll talk more about this in the next show, more about what's going on with Israel and Gaza. Israel wiping out entire families is so normalized that Amnesty International can publish this article on July 9th without any media coverage at all. Here's the title. Israeli attacks killing children. Wiping out families must be investigated as war crimes. Lebanon. Crickets. Remember when that used to be a major story? Not anymore. Finally, the Ukraine war didn't that's one of the ones Trump's ended, right? Yeah, it's just like all the other lies. Didn't stop. It never really did. But he still uses that as a tally on his 30,000 wars he stopped or whatever he'll say tomorrow. And the point is, Trump says he supports Ukraine's long-range attacks inside of Russia. Oh, that war he ended? Yeah. Continuing and escalating the proxy war in Ukraine, by the way, as Dave and myself and everybody with a brain told you would happen, escalating the Ukraine war is probably Trump's biggest betrayal of what he campaigned on. Yet you don't hear a peep about it. He didn't end the war. He did successfully end Republican opposition to it, though. Wake up, guys. But yeah, don't you know? We're so back. That's what you get. A cartoon, guys. I mean, like literally like a joke, like they're making fun of you, like Israel is making fun of you. We're so back, America. We're so back. We're so hot right now. These are things Trump actually says. This is the White House account. Do you feel like America is back? You guys can decide. Do you feel like we're where we should be in this country? I don't believe anybody does. But we're back. I mean, we have never been more lost. At the same time, though, we've never had more of an opportunity for actual change. I say it every time. I really genuinely believe we are in a moment where we have the potential, if we choose to capitalize on it and overlook our partisan division and truly change this for the better. And if we don't do it now, they will capitalize on this opportunity and roll us into the new thing they're building. I'd like to believe we can make an opportunity in all this. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next show. I love you all. As always, question everything. Come to your own conclusions. Stay vigilant.